80.
Is that right?
Yeah.
I thought you were 80. Yeah.
Was your intention raise?
No.
Pass folds.
He's not going to say yes anyway, is he?
Heads up.
Keep the range on cap so you're going to raise.
Oh yeah, true. Smart.
Sean checks. Adam. Adam bets 60,000. Sean? Sean calls 60.
Good afternoon, viewers, and welcome back. We return live at the Campbelltown Catholic Club for all the action of the Goliath final table.
Sean
And
checks.
excitingly, I am joined by Goliath champion, Brendan Ruby, joins me in commentary. Good afternoon, Brendan.
Well, actually, it's good morning for me, but I appreciate the lovely intro, and it's so cool to be introduced as the Goliath champion. In a while. It's about 2 years since I was the Goliath champion.
It's home turf, however. You are the Campbelltown Goliath champion.
It is home turf, so it's certainly
90,000?
familiar territory, so it's certainly bringing back all the feelings and all the excitement and all the nervousness that I felt when I was there. But also, when I was on the final table back in Campbelltown, we didn't have the stream, remember? That was the day that all the lockdowns started to happen, so I wasn't on the stream, so I didn't feel the pressure that these guys are probably feeling right now.
It was an interesting spot. We had the opportunity to start the Goliath stream, and then we had to immediately get over the border before 2 a.m. So as we packed up the poker room around you, you continued to take names and numbers, and I think just over 60,000 in winnings.
It did. It was a very fortunate time, while it was a very unfortunate time for a lot of people. So yeah, very weird experience.
We're certainly back. Live poker is absolutely booming, as you have seen. Great results for you all around the place, as well as a new ambassadorship role we'll talk about a little bit later on. Excitingly though, you've got some experience with these players. We'll have a look at that chip distribution as we get back to the game. So the last three hands, we saw that chip lead exchange last night. Hassan One, who'd been sitting on about 4 million in chips for the last 4 or 5 hours of the tournament. Two back-to-back brutal exchanges sees Sean Oy as our chip leader when we return with 5 million. Hassan One with 2 million. Daniel Velkovic with 2 million. Merlin and Adam both sitting at around just under the mill, 835,000 and 765,000 respectively.
Yeah, I mean, looking at these chip counts here, I mean, there's a clear chip leader who's probably going to try and put lots of pressure on all those other stacks. But you know, I've played a lot with pretty much everyone on this table, and I can guarantee you, it is still anyone's game at this point. So don't leave or don't give up just yet if you're one of these shorter stacks.
And what we certainly see from the Goliath, of course, is the depth in play of that structure. Allows players the perfect opportunity to play their best possible poker. An interesting change to the Goliath structure this year, Brendan. This series is the first they've trialled it. At 24 players, we did a full redraw and introduced the shot clock. So shot clocks came into play. Players were given 6 time bank tokens. And at the end of every 2 hours or 2 levels, they are refreshed 2 tokens. So they can use that to get another 30 seconds thinking time. But if they run out, they run out.
I know.
They will have
I went home and studied all these plays. That's why
at the end of 2 levels.
Alright, Adam.
This is music to my ears, Tom, because I think the shot clock is one of the most fantastic things to have been introduced to the game. I feel like at this high level, when we're playing for higher stakes,
he has like people that
we start to introduce the shot clock.
80,000?
It starts to really even further bridge like a higher challenge for those people who don't necessarily have the skills to act as quick and make the best decisions. So it's going to make better poker players have better opportunities, and that's what this game's all about. You know, we're all here to test our skills against other people's skills. So when you have a shot clock and you have this pressure at this high level, it's going to see the better players prevail, and the people who have done their study and done their work are going to make the better decisions under pressure. So I love
He's
that they've
like
introduced
Berkey,
that.
another Berkey.
I guess that's what that little
Come on,
green
man.
box there is for those who don't know. That's the little shot clock.
It
Is
just
that right,
stopped from
Tom?
coming.
That is indeed.
But at the same
So
time,
you'll
it's
see
still
that ticking down. 30 seconds while they make their decisions. It starts at the soon as the action is on the player. The black tokens there in front of them give them another 30
Which is
seconds.
fine,
And as
because
long
the
as they
game's
throw
might
one of
get
those in
bigger
before that
and
timer
I'll
runs
do
out, their hand is live.
I don't
Should
think
they
Garrett
forget
has
to do so, the hand will
capacity
be
to,
folded.
like, be a
Players
dick
have been
to
warned
play
not to
anymore. Like,
remind
he's
other
gotta be
players
nice
or
to
tick
everyone.
them down. If they time out in that 30 seconds, that's their
Everyone's
mistake.
calling out on Twitter today for like.
Okay, so this is an interesting discussion straight off the bat, Tom. So you're saying that if they're in the hand and the clock goes down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and they don't physically throw one of those chips in, their hand is dead. Is that right?
Correct. Now the dealer will start
separately, they won't
counting
play
down
together.
live from 10 and then a full countdown from 5, so they'll certainly know. The players have been advised to that, however.
I think she's an absolute
And
banana.
is
She just wasn't
if
playing
they
very
do not
much.
make their decision within that time.
I don't think she
Yeah,
did.
because other places are basically
she did?
saying that if
I
it's
just
your
think,
turn
like,
to
she's-
act
so
and
she's-
you don't
I don't
make a
reckon she's not
decision
an
in
actual
that
idiot.
30
Like, she's a
seconds,
functioning
one of
human
your
being.
time
She was
banks
really
will
drunk that day,
automatically
right?
just be used
So like,
in
if
play.
she's a functioning human
Which is
being,
what
she'll
happens
know to pick a
playing
better spot to cheat.
online, right? Like, so previously, you know, over the years when you're playing online, if you have money
Yeah,
on the
like-
pot, your
Chopping
time
language.
bank will
Sorry,
automatically be activated. You don't need to
Babe,
like
doesn't he sound like the guy?
do anything. So that's
speak.
interesting to me why they've chosen to go with that.
The gambling guy, the comedian.
Paul's
that
I will double check that ruling just to
Double
make sure that we're not as aggressive.
No,
But
what-
while
what
I
is
check
it?
that ruling, look at the action that's brewing here.
How do you say my grandfather is coming in your language?
Conflict arising. Under the gun, Daniel opens to 80,000
something.
with King Queen O.
Wait for him to finish the hand. He'll tell us how to say his grandfather is coming.
Sean makes the call from the cutoff,
All in.
and Nerlin wakes up in the small
Nerlin
blind
all
with
in.
aces.
Adam folds. Daniel
Sends
folds.
them all in.
Oh,
Sean calls. All in call.
It's going to be a tough spot for Sean. I mean, he's smooth called the initial raise.
hold
He's
no!
got a pretty strong hand here in a five-handed situation, and it looks like he's just called already.
If you
which
lose
I'm
this,
not
don't talk to me
surprised
for a
by.
week.
He's smooth called the first open.
9 in the window.
Introduced some action from one of the short stacks.
No, he's good. One good
In
is
most
over.
cases, generally speaking, you're going to have a really strong
Nine plus sweat.
situation with pocket nines.
Oh, that's a
There's
good
a
sweat.
What an action flop.
Yeah, that's a good one there for nines, I'd say.
You have club, you have club.
That's an amazing turn card
Jack
for
of clubs.
Jack of clubs.
nines. The clubs come live, however, for Nerlin with a redraw. And a
Fun one
brutal
right
run
there.
out.
Stay, buddy, stay. You have a seat right here, Jason. Jason, you can sit here.
Unlucky there for Nerlin.
Doesn't he
Not
sound
much
like a
he can
babe?
do, obviously.
Pay attention to when he
It was
talks.
it was a nice. I think
sound
it was
like a
actually really
comedian.
well played there by
Oh,
Sean
sorry,
to
yesterday.
flat calling the
Yeah,
original
David
raise.
Long.
Is a pretty
Yeah, but
decent
fucking from the same
strategy
place.
when
You
you're
can
the
act
chip
it.
leader at this point. You don't have any card removal to 3-bet and put any pressure on your original raiser.
big blind, please.
And in terms of just like making sure that you're still maintaining your chip lead and not bloating pots with marginal spots, I think the flat call to the original raise is actually really quite a smart play
Go
at this
away.
stage of the tournament.
Honestly.
And
I
actually, in
don't
a lot of
even know
cases
why I'm
there, I
telling
think
you.
Nerlin's probably going to shove all in with hands like pocket fives, pocket sixes, sevens, eights, and all your Broadway type combos.
Ah, you
So
just lost
I think it's a
20k.
really nice smooth call. Unlucky to run into aces, but hey, you know what? If you're going to make it straight,
Look how
who
happy
cares,
Adam
right?
is right now. He's got the biggest smile.
That's
deep
exactly
down.
right. It's an easy
Fine.
game when we do it like that. And what you'll see, of course, Nerlin, one of the nice guys in the poker scene, like one of the absolute nicest gentlemen in the Australian poker scene indeed, takes the beat like an absolute champ. A little bit of banter from
He had aces
Hassan,
there.
jokingly
Sean
calling
folds.
for the sweat run out. But no one likes to see a hand get cracked that way. He does joke about Adam being pretty happy
Pass
with the
raise,
outcome, though.
80.
Adam's just got a free ladder, and he's not wrong. Adam is happy to
Slightly thinner.
gain himself
It's
an
hard,
extra.
yeah.
It's not hard. It's
Effectively $6,000, $5,500 from $15,500. Now minimum payout is $21,000.
Yes, it's always a nice feeling to earn money by making a simple fold in the big blind there.
Adam folds.
So it's a confirmation on the shot clock ruling. It is a
What's a waste
forced
time? I
check
swear to God.
if they
He didn't know he was
are
folding within 4
action
seconds.
on. If they're
He's
facing
wasting.
action,
It's a
even with
complete
time
waste.
banks remaining, it is ruled as a fold if
Thank
they
you.
don't
That's not how
see
it
time
works.
chip out or
Thank
call.
you. Adam fixed everything. Thank you.
If it's forced
my
action,
wife
so
to pick
if someone's bet into them and they've got a decision to make and they don't physically put it in, then their hand is dead after the countdown. Is that right?
That's
Game
right.
checks.
Interesting. Yes, that's still very different to what I've seen so
Pass
far
first,
in other
75,000.
shot clocks.
Don't have 6
So I think it does.
Aggressive shot clock. It'll put the pressure on.
Yeah, what do you think about that, Tom? I mean, I think it's I personally think it should be automatic that your next time bank should be put into the pot, because there's a few reasons for this. I think one of the things that's been a really big problem with this shot clock thing with your time bank is that people throw the time bank chip in, and other players have mistaken that for a call, right? And people have started to show their hand when thinking they're getting called, but really it's just the time bank chip.
Correct.
So maybe if we don't have that rule, then people aren't just like throwing 2 or 3 time bank chips in when they're tanking in a situation, which might confuse the other player. And then, as the hand progresses, their time banks just are being counted by the dealer, and they just get taken, let's say during the hand or at the end of the hand. I'm not sure.
I think for removal of angle, it's interesting. I would probably like to see plaques rather than chips, just for that extra removal of confusion.
Daniel calls
When we're
165.
throwing in a chip versus throwing in a plaque. We had another philosophical, fun debate regarding the shot clock, Brendan, which I'd like your opinion on as well. So when we were hand for hand last night, we did 2 minutes off per level, per hand. Is there an argument that that should be changed, given that it's a shot clock at that time? So the average hand rate may be shorter or faster, and therefore the 2 minutes is actually shaving the levels perhaps faster than it should be at a 60-minute tournament.
Yeah, that's a really interesting one. Let me think about that. So we're saying, if we now have shot clock in play, do we take less time or more time off the clock per hand for hand?
Time extended.
Yeah, well, I would argue that perhaps we take less because the average hand is faster. Therefore, the mean average hand is probably slightly less than 2 minutes when we rely on a 2-minute average hand penalty.
Daniel?
Yeah, I think that's pretty fair, but 2 minutes is not really that much out of a 60-minute clock, right? I mean, we're talking like 30 hands an hour. That's pretty average for a live poker game. I mean, that's actually quite a lot already. So if you start to take 1.5 minutes off the clock, I mean, that's starting to get pretty aggressive.
I really do think that the 2 minutes is probably an accurate space, but it's a fun philosophical to describe.
Yeah, definitely.
So folks, you'll find us live, of course, on Facebook at APT Live, and also Twitch, twitch.tv/LCO Poker. Michael Warford joins us in Facebook chat. Evening, gentlemen. Hello, good to see you both. And plenty of viewers joining us on Twitch channels as well. It's Tom Bauer and Brendan Ruby in the commentary booth. Brendan, for those unfamiliar with yourself, tell us a bit about what you're currently doing on the poker circuit right now.
Yeah, what I'm currently doing. Well, I'm currently looking over Phnom Penh, which is in Cambodia. I've just been here for the WPT, so I'm pretty excited. This is my first poker trip since the pandemic, so it's been about 4 years. And it's been an exciting trip so far. The tournament was very well run by a very well-known name, Danny McDonough. We all know him in Australia. Very famous tournament director, and he ran an absolutely amazing show here at the WPT. I brought all my gear here, and as some of you might have seen so far, I've been doing some new content, which is called the Poker Diaries. So it's more of a documentary style where I'll be sharing hands and lots of the journey of what I go through when I play tournaments. So I came over here and I brought all my gear with me, and I've done heaps more content ready to go and release for you guys in a couple of weeks once I can put it all together. And actually tomorrow, Tom, I'm going to be flying from Cambodia here to the south of Vietnam, to Phu Quoc, which is, and I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, the APT, the Asian Poker Tour. They've got a nice series going on down there. And I tell you what, Tom, there's been a few Aussies killing it over here. There's been a very small pool of them. There's probably only 15 or 20 of the big Aussie players, but they have scooped up here. Have you seen what's going on, Tom?
Absolutely crushing the trophies. We see John Burt Perry winning the 3.5k high roller for 105,000 Australian. We saw McCulley playing heads up against Brad Owen and taking out, I believe, the opening event
your first
WPT, and also Kyle Burns had a deep run as well, I believe.
No, it was Kyle Matthews.
Oh, Mr. Matthews, of course.
Yes.
Kyle Burns was with us in Melbourne last year.
Oh, okay,
It'll be
right,
tilting,
cool.
but
Yeah, he's had a cracker of a series, and he managed to lock himself up the player of the series.
First
So,
rumble coming back. Yeah.
well done to Kyle. He's really put in the hard yards there, and he's got himself a few nice runs. I think he had one win, 1 second place finish, and, a whole handful of catches, and that was enough to lock him up for the player of the series. So he was certainly stoked by that. I actually had the pleasure of making there was a very last tournament that happened there. It was like a really small $200 buy-in. They had a 10-10-10, so it was like 10-second shot clock, 10K start stack and 10-minute blinds. I made the final table together, and unfortunately he came second. Couldn't get that extra trophy.
Phenomenal result.
There's a hand here. This is a big one. So it looks like Adam's raised the button. 80k, and Sean's just shipped it on him with ace-8. Now it looks to me like Adam has around about $1 million here, which is 25 big blinds, maybe a bit less. And this is a really tough spot for Adam because he knows he should call here. Adam's a very strong player, knows that Sean's going to shove really wide, and there's the call, Jed. There's the call.
No, that's the time back chips. Exactly what we've just spoken about.
Oh.
So Adam's reached in with the entire stack of time bakers, and Neil O'Brien will just take one and off per 30 seconds that he is required.
Yeah, there's the mistake there. I mean, I'm showing my hand already because of the way he put those chips in, Tom.
Yeah, it's a really interesting discussion. I don't disagree. An inattentive or just a slightly distracted player could just face up their hand and then find themselves getting snap called by the better hand from Adam.
Time extended.
So let's talk through what's going on in Adam's head right now. He's just taking a scan around the table. He's certainly looking at the other stacks at the table, and he's considering whether he's the shortest stack or not, whether he needs to make this call, whether he needs to potentially make a tight fold in order to ladder up. He has made the fold. So he's considering the stacks around him. This is an ICM situation.
He won't show
and all you poker players listening, I'm sure you know what ICM stands for, which is referring basically to the idea of trying to... Okay, let's look at those stacks there. So Hassan has 860. So Adam's thinking here, do I really need to call off
Adam knows that he's a wanker, so he doesn't mind.
By folding and finding other opportunities, maybe I can ladder up if Hassan...
Adam thought he could open the button freely like that. He thought you were going to let him push you around.
Maybe $10,000. And making
Ace Queen.
Conservative decision in that spot. A really, really smart ICM decision there by Adam, considering the stacks, and it's an even smarter and more
Depends how much he cares about
by
9 grand.
Sean by shoving and putting that pressure on Adam in such a high pressure situation. So very well played by both players there.
Daniel, you're next. Pause.
Screw in.
Stop.
Get together.
Lots of play between these guys as well. So there is a table dynamic that we're, always almost incapable of quite describing how that feels. But Adam is going to be confident that he is better than certain players. He's going to feel like maybe there are other players who are better than him. So he's certainly going to make sure that he's taking those spots where he needs to take those spots as well. If he feels like he's got edge on certain players, and he can find a better spot to be putting those chips in, he's going to make a fold here and go looking for a better spot.
And then let's also consider the structure of the tournament, because it's, as you mentioned earlier, it's one of the better structures here. So the blinds are still only 20k, 40k, and you've got there's still hour levels. Is that right, Tom?
60-minute levels, absolutely huge depth of play in this tournament.
And now you're playing four-handed with a shot clock, so you're we're probably going to see 50 or 60 hands get played within the hour, right? Like it's going to go quick, and these guys are high level, so they know how to make their decisions quite quickly anyway. A lot of high quality plays here. So I think when you look at that, I mean, Adam making that fold there, he's only putting 80k into the pot and he had about 1 million left. So it's not like he's lost a whole lot in that situation. So there's not a whole lot to lose, but not a whole lot to gain, but everything to lose in that situation with what's going on. There's time, so he's probably going to want to still find some sort of small ball way to get himself back in the game and just allow the game to progress a little bit more. We're not playing a $200 online tournament here. This is some big money. some juicy prize pools here, and also some, of course, bragging rights and prestige about that trophy, which I wouldn't know anything about, Tom.
None at all. None at all. I'm sure you're carrying the trophy with you and using it as a card guard at the WPT Cambodia and APT Vietnam.
Tell you what, if I carry one of those Goliath trophies with me, I'm paying an extra $100 on luggage everywhere I go. They are massive trophies that are absolutely amazing, but they are heavy. Probably way more than I do.
Passes all in.
Yeah, they are a pretty impressive.
Go!
Adam Falls. Daniel Falls.
Action aplenty here.
Sean
the sexy
Falls.
boys from Hassan O'Day, but Sean Boy has got
2 unders.
This is a rough spot for a man who had 45% of the chips in play for almost half the day yesterday.
Me unlucky, you unlucky.
At risk and an underdog.
I'll take a
King Jack 10 King.
Queen 10 9. I'll take a deuce 3 4 5 6.
Get more optimal than that for Sean at this point.
How do you have a cob too? You got
10
you
for
run
a
so
sweat.
All the same sweet.
It's not happening. He's down to 2 outs now. Only the jacks.
I think guys.
Lose the player.
No one saw that coming. We all thought the tournament may have been locked up yesterday when Hassan quickly got over the 3 million and pushed well into the 4 million territory. He will, though, take home $21,000. And Adam feeling even better about that ace-jack fold only a few moments ago.
Too late.
I guarantee you Adam's loving life for his fold after seeing that play out only 1 or 2 hands later.
Yeah. What the fuck was it?
The gentlemanly exit there by Hassan too. Very well-known player here in Sydney.
Yeah, lots of fans for Hassan on the rail. His wife and Alyssa are both playing this tournament as well. They'll be heading over to the Drukaka Championships before making their way into the grind. A nice everybody on the table. The remaining 3 players now have all guaranteed themselves at least $30,000.
Yeah.
And I just have queens.
To be guaranteed that sort of money, Tom.
But let me come back and talk about the video poker diaries that we're talking about.
That's why
I really enjoyed episode 1. Came out just over 2 weeks ago now, I think. The key to the video poker diaries that I think is going to be the biggest takeaway for the players at home is we're effectively doing almost a live in-game hand thought process. Now, the difficulty with reviewing poker hands is unfortunately it's impossible to do them without the benefit of hindsight. So it's easy for a player to say, well, I knew you must have had the flush after they've seen the player table the flush. Now, whilst your video diaries are not being recorded live, you have discussed in process your thoughts as you go through the hand. So this is why I'm sizing, this is what he should have, this is how I've ranged. And I think you've done that really authentically. So it does feel like the in-game process of those thoughts. That's going to be a phenomenal asset for players at the table.
23.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. I mean, it's certainly different to what all the other, let's say, vloggers are doing. My interest here is that I don't really want to create this like high dopamine, high turnover content of just lots of hands and just fast playing through them. Really have tried to capture the experience of what it's like to be in that situation. It's a bit slower and it requires a bit of patience to watch the content that I'm putting together here, but that's poker, like poker takes time and we have to be making our decisions through a deep thought process of consideration of everything. And I really, where I got the idea from was, if anyone's seen the Winamax series called Inside the Mind of a Pro, and they do this fantastically. I mean, they have like a full-on camera crew and all that stuff going on. But they do a similar thing, with the voiceover, and I was just absolutely captured by that. I really wanted to do it myself, and really feel like that we can get a lot from that as players to watch. And the other thing that I really wanted to do with this, Tom, is to build a bit of a cool environment and a cool documentary series that's going to attract people who may not be poker players. So when you're listening to my dialogue, or you might see parts of the documentary that are going on, that's my pre-game stuff or whatever it is. Like, I want people who aren't poker players to go, oh, that kind of looks really cool, you know, this seems like a really deep experience, and you know, the process seems really fun and challenging and exciting, and if someone's not a poker player, I want them to still be able to follow on and be attracted to the game for that. So I'm trying to help promote the game a little bit in that sense too.
Yeah, look, I really think it is important for players to understand how much patience is required, and we've got to have this slow process. We talk about adult attention mind spans coming in from something like 12 minutes per hour to 8 minutes, or even 6 minutes now per hour. And
Sean, cause 40.
When we're playing poker, we talked about the Goliath yesterday. These guys were on the felt for effectively almost 15 hours.
Correct.
It's such a long-term game. We've got to maintain that patience and focus, because the other thing it is, as well as long-term, is it's a cruel mistress in that one mistake can be a tournament-ending one.
That's right, you know. It's a really challenging game, and I think going back to what you said about when you're
raised
talking about a hand
150,000
history or something like that, you know, it's not as simple as I had this hand in this position and this. How do I play it? You have to capture everything, right? Like, we're watching here that these guys have been playing together for 3 days now, right? And they've had a lot of dynamics together. A lot of bluffing has gone on. There's been a lot of history, right? And that's how you're going to make a lot of your decisions. I mean, a lot of people are very fixated on GTO these days, and so they should be. It's very important to understand the foundations of game theory.
Ready, guys.
But when we're playing long periods of times, and if you're playing with the same players over and over again, you know, week in, week out, and you have all this history, you're going to alter your decisions based on that. And I just want to make a point out here, Tom. Velk here is my nemesis. If anyone's watched my first episode of the Poker Diaries, he featured in there and he got me in a really good hand. And when you log on in a couple of days when I release episode 2, it's another very interesting hand with Velk as well. So, gotta say, Velk does look he does not look any different than he did 5 weeks ago when I was playing with him. I think he's wearing the same shirt, the same hat, and I don't think he's trimmed his beard. But I tell you what, he is an absolutely phenomenal player. And he's very, very capable of taking this tournament out, as is Adam Carmen here, also another guest on the Australian Poker Mindset, which is my podcast. Sean, you know, he's a bit of a... I haven't really played a whole lot with Sean, so I'm going to suss him out here. What do we know of Sean so far here, Tom?
We have seen a lot of Sean throughout our feature tables in the last few months. He's been a regular circuit tour player now in Australia. So he's come onto the circuit and done some fairly consistent results. Most recently drawing a great big mystery bounty out in the Sydney APLPT, or the $12,000 bounty that continued to run deep throughout that. A couple of trophies in the cabinet and some deep consistent runs through the table. The biggest thing that he did yesterday was control the whole card distribution. Late in the game, he decided to wake up and connect his hands and turn them into winning hands. That's the hardest thing to do in poker.
The hardest. It's a good strategy.
It's a good strategy. No, but what he was able to do, actually, with his talent, was to extract value. He changed up timing, he changed up bet sizing, doing all of those things allowed him to get paid off in some funky spots, and that did rock him up the chip lead.
Okay.
Daniel, checks.
Well, look, with a chip lead like this, you don't get them only by getting good hands. You know, you got to get max value from those good hands, and you got to be able to maneuver your way through some of these really talented players. So I have no doubt that he has just as much of an ability to take this down as do Velk and Adam here. So very excited to log on here and join you for the next couple of hours to see how this pans out.
Yeah, it's really, truly anyone's game. And for those, probably Daniel would be the player who's the least familiar to the viewers on the stream, with probably the least airtime on an LCAT broadcast, but a regular on the Sydney poker scene and a regular on your new home turf. Brendan, tell us a bit about your new ambassadorship.
Yeah, so working with King's Premium Poker Room in St George Leagues Club there in Cogra, which is just near the airport in Sydney for those who aren't Sydney-siders. So a couple of months ago now, I sat down with them and I said, hey, look, I can help you, you can help me, let's get some cool stuff going. I want to create these documentaries, I want to promote poker, I want to promote some coaching, I want to do some some great content and get this room going and get people who are interested in poker to have a safe place where they can be challenged by the game, have opportunity in the game, and grow themselves in the game. So what I love about the room there and what I love about what I've done with the guys there, and Mark Liddell is the tournament director who's been running all the games down there, who I've known for quite a long time now. I really love his motifs. He and I connect really well about our vision for the game, which is to bring that really safe environment, that really, Mark's very much on the customer service side, so he's always going to greet you with a big smile and make you feel safe so that you can feel comfortable and you can feel safe to be able to just sit down and play your game in an environment that's encouraging for that. So the room itself is really cool. It's really secluded from the actual leagues club, from all the pokie machines and all that stuff. So it's a nice little room. There's heaps of sunlight there, and there's a bar there as well. And it's just a really great environment for poker, to be quite honest. So really happy to join with those guys, and a lot of great stuff to come with them. They've got a massive tournament that they've got coming up at the end of the year. So in November, they have guaranteed a tournament, which is a $2,000 buy-in. Their first prize is going to be $250,000. So that's a guarantee from them. So that's going to be a big one. So if you want to know more about what's going on for them, head to kingspoker.com.au.
The Sydney Millions is bound to be an enormous event. And speaking of enormous events, we have to talk about what first prize also wins. So not only will first prize today be taking home $66,000, they will also get an entry into the Tournament of Champions, which will be held at the end of this series for a $50,000 free roll. One of the hardest free rolls to get your way into. All you have to do is actually win an event on the APT circuit. But they will also, Brendan, receive entry into the Vault tournament. We see that Vault tournament logo there in front of Daniel on stream. That is a $1,250 buy-in. It's to be held in October at the Bankstown Sports Club, and that has a guaranteed $150,000 first prize. Big guarantee, lower price point, huge guaranteed for first prize. That's going to be a must-play on the poker circuit. It's the Vault. You can find out information about the Vault tournament
Adam calls 80
at australianpokertour.com.au.
A great tournament. I'm certainly looking forward to playing that one, as long as I'm not here in Asia or Vegas or somewhere now that I'm starting to do my travels again. We've got a hand here. Let's start to talk about a few of these hands, Tom. So Velk, so I say Velk, I mean obviously his name is Daniel, but when I spoke to him he prefers Velk, so I'm going to go with that. He's opened the button here with ace-3 suited. Adams defended the big blind with deuce-4 suited, which is a pretty standard hand to defend here. Attic one, but he's getting a right price, so he's called. And on this sort of flop here, he's clearly got 4 high, but not only that, but this board completely favors the range of Daniel Velk, I should say. So he's just going to bet there, whether he's got it or not, and he's going to take that one down. Velk adds some chips to his stack, and we're going to see some action here. So
it's an interesting chip distribution. Whilst it looks so weighted, and that is going to impact how players feel about their stack, the depth in play is still giving them tons of opportunity. We see commanding chip lead. Shorto sitting on 6.7 million, Daniel at 2.8 million, Adam with 1.1 million. The blind's 20k, 40k, 40k. No one has to immediately go home anytime soon. Feels like you're absolutely crushed.
We could be here for the next 6 or 7 hours.
There's depth in this tournament.
Sean, on you.
The weight of chips in front of you is going to feel very, very difficult, but you have so much play available to you in the
Adam?
I can guarantee you that these 3 players are not going to be making high variance mistakes, these structures, right? Sometimes what you see is people who might be inexperienced at this high pressure, high level, I'd overplay certain hands thinking that they kind of have to because they're the shortest stack, You might have people in Adam's situation, for example, where he's sitting on 1 million. Velk has 3 million and Sean has 6 million. And Adam might start to feel, oh, I'm the shortest stack, I've got to rush here. But I can guarantee you we're going to start to see that Adam's still going to want to get the maximum play out of his stack. So he's going to be playing, you know, still that strategy that he's followed with his learnings with the GTO or whatever it might be with his exploitative stuff. But there's not going to be any just whacking it all in with any ace, right? There's plenty of play here, so I'm excited to see some hands.
The joys of GTO versus exploitative style, but the depth of play is going to allow these guys to play their best possible play, which is great.
One there.
3-bet, 4-bet, hold.
Kind of keen to see how Sean manages this big stack here because given that he's got the 6 million there close to it and Adam's got the 1, Velk has the 3, we expect to see Sean putting a lot of pressure on Velk here because Velk does not want to bust in third position when Adam's got only 1 million behind him. So putting tons of pressure on Velk is a really smart idea for Sean. So I want to see how he does that. These are those external things, Tom, when you're in these final 3, right? So it's not just about the hands that you're getting dealt. It's about the dynamics of the stack depth, about the dynamics of the ICM decisions we're making, and the pressure we're putting on our opponent. And sometimes your hand doesn't necessarily need to make sense at this stage. It's more so the pressure of the equity that you can put on someone's stack.
Daniel folds. Sean folds, actually.
Yeah, the absolute pressure of tournament life decisions when we're talking about significant jumps. 30,000 for third, a 14,000 pay jump for second. It's a $14,000 chip move that you're pushing forward.
So there's an interesting one there. So Adams opened the button with 10-8 suited, which is a pretty standard raise size there, and hand to choose to raise there. And Velk's gone a very big size there. He's 3-bet. Jacket. A bit unorthodox for some rate. I say that there's a lot of history here, right? So
it is certainly history between these players, and that's something that's difficult for us to sort of describe on the table at home as well to the viewers.
That's right, and I think often people bring hand histories to me, and sometimes I might get to the conclusion and say, well, depending on who the player is and the dynamics of the game, I may go all in, I may call, and I may fold. So this is the exploitative side, right? This is how we're figuring out how to navigate through different player styles, player types, and dynamics.
Okay.
Sean's limped in here from the small blind with ace-9 offsuit. Adams decided to check with a king-8 offsuit. Passive by both players with these hands at this stage.
Sean checks.
I think Sean has other plans there with that little limp there with ace-9. I don't think he's limping with any plan to fold to any raises or actions. So tricky there by Sean, and I kind of like it, to be honest.
Sean?
Yeah, we've definitely seen some replay for its timing and speed, and this is a fun spot now brewing with the jack on the turn.
Well, it's a great bluff card here now for Sean. He's got to feel like he's unlikely to have the best hand with ace high, or at least he's unlikely to win at showdown with ace high. So he's going to go ahead and bet minimum bet there with his draw. Got some outs. He's thinking he may already have the best hand though. Adam hasn't really shown much interest in his hand. He's checked pre-flop, checked the flop. So I think Sean's just using his chips here to just define the hand a little bit and try and put himself in the best position to win. Now Adam's checked back the flop here, which is a bit of a passive play there on that flop, given that he's got second pair and he's got the backdoor second nut flush draw. So I think Adam's not going to fold to that single bet on the turn. So I'm not surprised to see that call there. This is an interesting river now because there's a one card straight, as we can see. Any 7, any queen makes the straight. Now Sean's improved to a pair of 9s, and he's thinking,
Sean bets 100.
Do I have enough showdown value here to check and win this pot? Or do I need to bet here to get hands like 10, jack, maybe 2 pair to fold? So Sean's gone out and bet 100,000. This is very interesting here because it's quite a small bet really in relation to the pot. So I wonder if Sean's thinking that he has the best hand and he's actually trying to get value from this. And if that's the case, what a boss time to do it when Adam's got a hand that can actually pay off
5
this
seconds.
bet.
Adam folds.
And that's a tough spot there for Adam because he's really not beating much on that board. So the pressure is going to work. Get him out of there. Tom, I must say, the quality of these streams, you are improving and upping your game every time I log onto these things. This is looking fantastic.
Very kind of you to say. We do take pride in being the best broadcaster in Australian poker. And we spoke last time we had you in commentary, Brendan, about we've just crossed 2,500 hours. Well, we're nearly, in about 8 months later, crossing the 3,000 hours mark. We are pretty well back to back all around the country broadcasting live poker, and it truly is a privilege for us. We get so much entertainment and so much education from filming it.
Yeah, I just came back out of here and it was like there's a nail in
We
it.
did have it proposed to us at the
I
end
need to
of
go and
last
get
year,
a,
Brendan, that perhaps there would be a book
DIY one,
on
yeah.
live poker
I
tells
just
or live
haven't
poker information on the
had a
Australian
chance
market,
yeah.
and whether we should
But
be selling that.
after this, I'm going to go to MCAs.
Potentially blackmailing other opponents with it, but we can avoid that for the near future.
Tell me more. What do you mean? You want we want a book written?
Well, you know, we could put out a list of these are Brendan Ruby's tells on the table.
Yeah.
You
So we
won't be
could
able.
put the how-to. Now, well, fortunately, there aren't any.
Very
One time.
No, I just mean
Terrible
if you try and document my tells, you're not going to get anywhere because you know, like not only do I just have you know a blank face quite often, but you know I don't really know what I'm doing or what's going on most of the time. So I don't know how you're going to get a read on me.
The hardest man to read on the poker table is the one who doesn't know how to read his hand.
That's right.
Adam folds.
Look, honestly, it's a true privilege for us. We have the absolute pleasure to broadcast and film poker all around the country, and we did speak only recently with the Rec Poker crew. I believe you'll be talking with them shortly, Brendan, but just how important and powerful these live streams are in terms of poker education. As far as taking home the key points of poker and where it really matters, distinctly through that deep stack all the way through to final table.
Sean raised.
Talking about what works, what doesn't work,
240.
understanding how to play final tables well.
Adam
There's
folds.
no better resource than game tape. Every other sport in the world looks at game tape or rewatches game footage. So many poker players don't do it. We're thrilled to be able to offer players the opportunity to have exactly that. Go back, rewatch their game tape, watch the game tape of your opponents, and work out how best to take it down from there.
Yeah, and look, you know me, Tom. I love my my practice of gratitude, and I say this a lot, but I'm going to say it again. On behalf of all the players in Australia and overseas, I mean, even though I'm overseas logging on right now, do a great job, man. And you and your team have just put in the hours. I don't know when you get time to sleep, man. So thank you so much for all the hard work you put in. You are providing such a great platform for us to not only follow our friends and feel that sense of excitement to rail our friends and rail ourselves later and watch those tapes back, but we're able to learn and keep growing. And as you know, that's my motif with poker. You know, like I want everybody to be able to continue to grow their personal game and their character development within this game. So yeah, like whenever people come to me and sort of want to know how to study poker, I say, well, if you're going to play in Australia a lot, I would recommend you just go and watch all your streams, Tom, because there's so much to gain from just observing what's going on in our games here in Australia. So keep it up, keep up the good work, my friend, even though I still don't know how you ever, you know, get any sleep.
One of those distinct lucky people that get to do what they do and love what they do. What do they say? If you do a job that you love, you never work a day in your life.
I think that's one of the sayings, yeah. It doesn't mean you don't burn out from time to time, so I'm sending the positive vibes for you, Tom.
Far too kind. For those used to my usual dulcet tones, you'll hear me sounding a little on the unwell side of things, but still happy and enjoying myself, that's for sure.
Okay, we've got some action, Tom, and while we've been talking, I just want to note the last hand that happened. So Adam had actually raised the button with 10 jack offsuit. It's the min raise with his 25 big blinds or so. Sean made a 3-bet with ace-4 offsuit. So it's a bit of a light 3-bet. It's a good one when we're playing 3-handed and you're trying to put pressure on those stacks.
5.
Then Adam made the fold.
Sean folds.
Now, comes in the big blind, it's gone limp, check, check. Sean's made second pair there, and he's bet out small, and Adam's decided to raise with his hand. He's got 7 high. Got a lot of backdoor draws with that hand, so it's not a bad one to choose to raise.
I don't bluff.
And he's going to turn that into a nice little bluff there, and he's got it through. So we're starting to see some skill exercised here. A little bit of deep thinking. And that's certainly not something you're going to see when you're looking at GTO stuff in some sense, right? So I feel like some of these guys are trying to outplay each other. They're trying to be tricky. They're trying to balance their bluffs and their good hands to remain unpredictable. This is the sort of real poker that we want to see, Tom.
That's exactly right. Level wars and deep structured poker gives all the players this opportunity as well. Lots of folks with some good shout outs both in our Facebook and Twitch chat, Brenda. You'll find us on Facebook at APT Live and also twitch.tv/LCR. It's Tom Bauer and Brendan Ruby in the commentary booth. Any questions for either of us, do shout those out as well. Happy to answer those questions, or if there's something you want to get the analysis from the experts, now's the time to pick the mind of Brendan Ruby while he joins us throughout the final table broadcast here. Check distribution. Adam now just under the million, 945,000. Daniel at 2.7 million. Shawnoi moves over 7 million.
Nice positive feedback for you there again, Tom, in the chat. So there's the community that I'm trying to represent here that's just confirming how much we love the streams.
Far too kind. We certainly do as best we can to stream virtually all the poker in Australia now, working with every brand and also the casinos as well. There is almost too much poker in Australia, if anyone could suggest such a thing. There is a major tournament series everywhere right now, and it's just fantastic. We are thrilled to be travelling around, but we tried discussing what this boom is related to in poker, and honestly, I think it is about the availability of the resource, the polished professionalism of the organisers, and just how welcoming the community is to new players right now. We associated the last boom with the moneymaker effect and the roll-on association of online poker and that explosion, particularly someone satelliting a small amount for World Series of Poker main event winnings. But trying to pick what it is that has actually triggered this live poker explosion again is really difficult to make that cross-correlation. And I think there are so many factors in it, but the organisation operation from all of the major players in the game and the professionalism that is brought to these tours really is leading the race and showing just how exciting live poker is. And it's definitely welcoming players back into the film.
Kings of talent in Australia.
Yeah, and I think that's a really key thing, Tom. You know, like, look, it's a game that's, you know, we're risking a lot of money, we're risking a lot of time, you know, we're sacrificing a lot of energy and time away from our loved ones, our businesses, and we need to feel safe, we need to feel excited and comfortable when we're in pursuit of our poker dreams. And I really do feel like, I want to double down on your comment there, I feel like a lot of operators in Australia are really doing a great job of that, so kudos to everyone there, so let's keep it up. Okay, so Sean's limped in here for offsuit. So we can see here that Sean's limping almost every small blind. So he's limped his ace-9 offsuit, he's limped King 4, he's limped Queen 9. So he's certainly happy to limp the higher range here. I think that's actually a really good strategy from the small blind, because you don't want to go playing big pots out of position a lot, especially when our big blind only has 20 or so big blinds. So limping in here gets us a lot of information for very cheap. And it gives us
Sean
opportunity
calls
to still
1.5.
play post flop, it's to still represent other hands and the like. So Adams decided to raise it up here to the limp. Made it about 3.2x there, it looks like. A7 offsuit. And Sean's going to quickly make the call. Flop top pair here, so pretty decent flop. This is the sort of flop here where Adam's going to most likely feel like he can continue and represent those kings, queen, ace, king.
Sean bets 100.
To my surprise here, it's gone check, check.
Yeah, an interesting check on flop. Sean leads out for 100,000 on turn.
Well, as I can see here, my interpretation of what I be happening is
10 seconds.
you get below 20 big blinds. You really want to get a lot of information in every hand you're in so that you're not just splashing around trying to chip up. You know, what I'm really impressed by so far by Adam and what he's doing to navigate this stack is he's really respecting the equity of his stack. It only really takes one key moment for him to find a nice big double up, right? Like if that comes, right? And he's giving himself ample opportunity to find that. But in the meantime, he's not just splashing around betting every single spot just for the sake of it. Right, so he's really respecting each chip, and he's really just being particular about trying to find those opportunities to accumulate. And you know, he's got a read on Sean, and Sean's got a read on him. Whether they're accurate or whether they're going to change over the next few blind levels is what we're about to find out. But I can guarantee you they're all finding reads, finding pattern recognition to disrupt in each other's games. And this is exciting to watch.
Yeah, that's a certainly important part to determine is that what's the norm for these people and how do I exploit that normative? So when does those behavioural patterns change, be it pacing of play, sizing of play, and then correctly identifying what those changes mean. Now it sounds like it's a really simple thing to do when we summarise it so succinctly, but unfortunately that's the entire beauty of the game, and that's exactly what makes it so difficult but also so wonderfully complex.
You know, Velk's been pretty snug here. He's 3 million stack, a bit below that. And it doesn't look like he's really had that many key hands to really get involved in. But I can guarantee you that given that Sean and Adam seem to be tangling a little bit, Velk's probably happy for Sean to do a bit of the dirty work on Adam's stack at the moment and try and combat that. And obviously if Velk manages to ladder up by just being patient with his stack, it's a really optimal strategy given the chip stacks at the moment. So I don't expect to see Velk get tangled up in any big pots against Sean. And he's probably just happy to play some small ball poker and just kind of stay out of it while Adam probably tries to combat Sean and chip up through him. Or potentially, of course, there's the chance he might bust out.
Daniel faults.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be an interesting heads up depending on who doubles through to be faced this 7 million chip stack. If Sean is able to KO Daniel,
heads up,
it would be a 10 million to 1 million, or sub 1 million obviously, just over 10 million chips in play.
Sean checks.
It would be a phenomenal heads up battle to blind for Adam. But there's still plenty of poker left on this tournament. 60-minute levels. The shot clock doesn't speed up the game relative to the blind structure. All it does is just encourage more hands per hour. And so that's great for everybody. We're going to get more poker to watch.
Sean checks.
But it's not actually going to speed up the game relative to the blind structure, which means the game's not going to end any sooner. An amazing turn cut here for Sean, bringing the nut flush draw live. He's ace-6, now looking a lot more comfortable than Adam's ace-6.
Adam checks.
You know what I love about these situations? When you're playing short-handed, both players have the same hand. This is where you really start to understand that poker is not just about the hand you have. It's about your position. It's about the action. You know, who's the pre-flop raiser, who's in position. That matches up with the board texture. Looks like both players here are pretty happy to play passively and check this one all the way to the river. not much out there for either
Like in
of them,
store
so
here?
it's going to be a checked one. But when you have two players with the same hand,
Next time when you check,
sometimes it's just about that player that's in a position to exercise their chip
The concept of
stack
bet. Rewind the hand.
in the right way to take down the
Rewind the hand. I think concept of bet.
always interesting. Not that one, that
think
was
you jammed
boring.
this one
He's
pretty
checking it
top.
down. I want to see some massive bluffs or something. But I think there's a lot of small ball going on at the moment, Tom.
Keep you on your toes.
Speaking of massive bluffs, we would be remiss, Brendan, if we didn't talk about the massive bluff that happened
E6 here.
right before our final table formed yesterday. Hassan putting Adam Carmen absolutely in the blender.
What do you have? Yeah.
Ace jack
As our
suit.
hand, you see Hassan
I
open
won't fold now.
32,000 with
I won't
Jack
fold
10.
now,
Adam
because
makes
he
the
was-
call.
Okay, yeah.
Blinds
Yeah,
at
yeah, I only did it because he
16,
was
Yeah, I
16.
know.
For sure, yeah.
They both check the flop as they both pair up. Adam with top pair on a king 6 jack flop. Adam's ace
Calls.
king well ahead. Hassan's jack 10.
John calls 40.
On the turn, Adam leads 125 and Hassan flat. On the river, which is the queen of diamonds, so we have a board king of clubs, 6 of clubs, jack of spades,
And checks.
4 of diamonds, queen of diamonds. Adam with top pair, top kicker leads out 275,000. Hassan O'Neill rips to 1.3 million.
Wow.
And after some time in the tank, Adam was able to find the fold, and Hassan promptly faced up the cards and showed him exactly what
Sean
he
checks.
got away with. So there is plenty of bedroom play between this table dynamic and this structure. Don't think that for some reason the 2.5k price
Checks.
point is going to put fear into these guys making big moves. They're all very capable of making big moves
So,
throughout
check.
this final table.
Absolutely, and what a time to put pressure on someone with a hand that certainly
And
blocks
check.
a lot of really strong hands with that Jack 10. So well played there by Hassan.
Really
Fortunately,
interesting unblockers.
seems like he's run cold and busted out anyway, but that can happen in these tournaments. You know, it's why you never give up if you don't have enough chips, and you never think you got it if you're the chip leader. You got to just keep focusing on the process, right?
Yeah, it's not over until you're standing there taking the photo with the trophy, I'm afraid.
The little
bets
small ball
40,000.
hand here. Sean's limped the
And
small
calls,
blind
straight
with
on.
an ace-5. Adam's just checked it with his 10-3 offsuit. Fair enough.
It's a value bet.
Connected with the 10. Then a few checks. Now a small bet on the
It
river.
was a value bet.
I'm just going to add a little bit to his stack there.
What do you think I was going to call it?
Jack eye.
So these guys are about an hour into play, just settling in and finding themselves close to jumping up in blind levels to our next, which will be 25,000, 50,000. So
Yeah,
again,
go check,
absolute
check.
bedroom play. We do have to
could
look at
very
the
well
fatigue
bluff
levels
him
for the
5-5
players. We mentioned earlier that yesterday was a 15-hour day in the room, not quite on the felt, but close
check
to
your day
14
in
hours of
the
play time. That's after day 1 as well. They returned
When you
after
snap, I
finishing
know it's
around
not
2
Jack
a.m. last night to 12:30 p.m. to start today. So a short-ish turnaround and big money and big decisions. So some fatigue will start to creep in on these players as well.
I guarantee you, Tom, that turnaround is brutal if you're in this situation, because you know there's so much up for grabs. You're on high alert. You've been playing all day for 2 days straight. Very stressful. The stakes are high. Some of these guys, you know, they're selling action to their friends. Maybe they're getting staked into it, or maybe they're risking all of their own money in it. It's very, very high pressure. So it's very difficult to sleep in these times in between days when the excitement level's high, the pressure's high, and you need to be
And
there
calls
to
40.
perform, right? This game's a performance
Daniel?
sport, so I guarantee you it's very hard to get good quality sleep and rest in between these days, which is why I'm so adamant about everything we do in the weeks leading up to these tournament series to make sure our body and mind have these energy reserves to draw on when the pressure is high like this. But make no mistake, these guys are not new to these high stakes buy-ins, so you can guarantee they all have their processes
Adam.
and they're going to still make these really optimal decisions. We're still seeing some great poker, and these guys are fatigued, despite what it may
Pair
look like.
for Adam here and 2 pair for Daniel. He's going to feel great about this board. This is a board that cracks any ace combos a lot of the time. I don't think he's going to be particularly worried about King 10 combos.
Check calls.
He's going to play it a little slow. Adam bets the 40, and Daniel's going to call 40 and just come along through. How important is this nine of hearts on the turn?
Well, it brings a backdoor straight draw, flush draw. Sorry, not a backdoor straight draw, I suppose, because that would be a gut shot on the flop. Certainly brings a lot of outs here. Let's bet the flop, right? So it's limped in pre-flop. Both players are thinking neither of them are likely to have an ace in their hand. There's not been a raise pre-flop. Unlikely. So when Adam decides to lead out with bottom pair on this board, not just doing it without some sort of plan or strategy. He's looking to get called by king high. He's looking to get called by even 10 high. And he's just looking to protect his range a little bit here, right? To avoid being bluffed off a certain hand like this. And so that's why it looks like Adam's betting out again with that pair of jacks. Because now there's hands like 9-10, king 9, you know, jack with a worse kicker potentially. So we're getting a bit of value, we're getting a bit of protection. So I don't hate it, I don't love it. I mean, jack 5's pretty low there in his range, but sometimes just a little bit of aggression to protect your range is enough to do the trick. And look, Velk's slow playing here big time. He's got 2 pair, and there's no way Adam's putting him on 2 pair at this point.
Super disguised.
Super disguised here. I think Adam thinks that Velk's calling him down with king high. Now Adam's checking. Try and get to that showdown. I would not be surprised if Velk bets out here. Maybe 200, 250,000. Adam makes a crying call. Would not be surprised. Though, see, you know, they've got their history together. Maybe Adam has reads on him. Way here. Now, is that a bet or a time bank?
Time extended.
A time bank.
Time bank. Eyes are failing me, Tom. I'm getting old.
It's all fine. It's an interesting time bank usage, actually. Is it a time bank for value? Are we extracting by taking extra time in our hand?
Daniel bets 300,000.
It certainly adds another dynamic to the psychological level, right? You know, if we're taking time with our decisions, it certainly adds that extra level. When somebody tanks and then they use a time bank chip and then they bet, it's like they really take that long to consider a bluff and then bluff. Let's talk about the bet size here. So Velk's gone for 300k, and wouldn't be surprised, like I said earlier in this hand, to see Adam call here because he's probably putting Velk on some king high hands. We have to remember that this pot was limped in from the small blind and Velk checked from the big blind. So Velk can certainly have some king high hands. He may even have 10 high, right? He might have called the flop with a gut shot, called the turn with an up and down, and now he's sitting here with 10 high. So that's what is going through Adam's mind right now. He's trying to think, well, if I limped in here, would Velk really have a hand like ace, ace queen, queen jack and all that?
Alright guys, blinds are going up to 25, 50,
it's the right timing there, but I think some of those spots there's a bit of a flip of a coin, Tom. I reckon Adam's got a little bit of that extra read, and I think his strategy seems to be following suit with this small ball strategy at the moment. So he doesn't want to pay off a big portion of his stack there and see any bad news. Fold there.
A couple of folks joining us over in Twitch chat, of course, twitch.tv/LCA Poker, Irish Lights, the sweet sounds of Brendor and the husky sounding magic. Tom, keep up the good work, lads. Thanks for joining us over. Jazz199, I want to chat. Oh, it worked. Let's go. Jazz, thank you for joining us. Any questions for Brendan or myself? Please do shoot those across. Over in Facebook, you'll find us at APT Live, of course, as well. Wayne Atkins, nice call, and commenting that he's folding in that last hand.
I mean, if I know Jack 2, I'd probably fold, but Adam doesn't know that, guys. We've got to remember that.
It's a lot easier for us with the whole Jason Anand, the previous winner of the Goliath, joins us. Never played against Daniel, but can confirm Adam and Sean are absolute weapons. Good luck to all three players.
Guarantee you, Velk is a weapon too. So
yeah, we're in for an absolute masterclass show. We've got three big players on the table, three very capable poker players. Deep structure.
We just make note of a Goliath champion at 2, Tom. Jason Anand, am I right to say that?
We are indeed. Jason Anand, the previous Goliath champion, not the Campbelltown champion, but taking out the event just at the most recent APT. He wasn't going to be defending his title, but the FOMO was just too much for him. He did fly down for day 2. Made a deep run and some pretty impressive moves on the stream earlier on our feature table yesterday, but unfortunately ran into a wall. We'll have a new reigning champion. There's not going to be a back-to-back this time.
Adam, you're up at 800.
Perhaps we are lucky that Mr. Ruby joins us from Cambodia and is also unable to defend his former Goliath title.
So who's going to win here? Who have we got? What have we been sweating in the previous stream, you know?
We actually haven't made a commentator's prediction this series, and it seems like the chip distribution might do a bit of the work for us, but I will offer you the opportunity first, Brendan. We're three-handed. Have a pick. Who's taking this one down?
Right, I'm going to input a few thoughts here. First, let's talk about this hand. This is interesting. So, Velk's raised from the button. The min raise, the blinds are up, 25k, 50k. Just going for the standard min raise with an ace-8 suited. Adam's got a really premium ace-queen suited here. We're going to go all in, and this is a really tough spot here for Velk. I will not be surprised if he falls here, because I think Adam only has 700k at this point. But we're going to find out with the chip count here. So that's only about 14 or 15 big blinds, if that's right.
So all players remaining in Carcass Players Challenge, number 6. This is your 1 minute 45-second call.
And this is a spot where Daniel's thinking, well, Adam's probably going to shove some worse aces here. Probably some suited combo, Broadway combo hands like 10-jack, king-queen, king-jack, small pairs. So Velk's probably going to count up all the possible combinations and match up his hand with the equity of all the possible hands that Adam can have here. And there's an added pressure here of, well, if I call here and I'm wrong, now I've doubled Adam up, and now we're both in the same stack. So do I want to do that, or do I want to make a conservative fold here, make Adam really work hard to double up, and work hard through Sean maybe to double up? There's a lot to consider in this hand. It's not as simple as he could have a worse ace and I'm going to call. There's a lot at stake here. So the all-in bet is 875, so it's 775 to call. So it's a little higher than what I thought, which just puts that little bit more pressure on Velk here. He does make a laydown. What a great time. That's what I mean. These guys all have the skills, so I wouldn't be surprised if it comes down to distribution of cards for. I'm just going to take this one out.
These people don't want to bust.
Yeah, 70 student.
Special comment to this dealer, by the way. I can't remember his name because it was a long time ago. I had him deal for me, but pretty sure he's an Adelaide boy, and he's a phenomenal dealer. So very excited to see him back in the action in Sydney.
125.
Smooth. He's just smooth. Whenever you get him on your table, guys, he is a smooth dealer. He provides a very exciting.
Players, champions, your blinds recommencing at 1200, 2400 with a 2500 big blind entry.
And you are 100%
12, 24, 24. All players for the Elite Sports Massage Big Bounty retake your seats. This is your 1 minute warning for that event.
GG Poker Art
All
Gallery.
right, we'll be standing back up just under a minute.
We don't have
All
to
big bounty players, return to your seats, please.
but, a phenomenally talented dealer, and he certainly adds some flair and some flourish.
Love the art comment. I think you're right. It's poetic, isn't it?
We've got some very
Yeah, we
good
got
talented
that.
dealers
You're
in
anti.
the Australian poker circuit.
You're
And
anti.
It
Oh.
does. It is all part of the panache, the excitement. of the game. You see a dealer that just puts that flair in, and the fact is these guys do enormous hours over a series of circuits as well. And when you see a dealer who's so passionate about their job,
So is that my 50 or is that
No,
yours?
I
No, I
just
gave it to
read
you. I
it.
gave it to you.
Yeah,
Oh, sorry.
yeah, just read it. Stop being
Sorry,
greedy,
I've got still not opened.
I need every cube I can get.
Just saw a raise there on the button by Sean with the King 8 offsuit, which is very standard
know, we
at
got
this
15,
point with his stack.
Done.
Adam's gone for it again with a reshove from the small blind with King Jack
All
offsuit for
bounty
about
players
20
and
blinds.
dealers, your blinds recommencing at
Got
300,
folds
600.
through, so-
For the 600 big blind in, that's all players,
Well,
dealers.
Adam's
Your big
patience
bounty,
is
3,
paying off
6,
in those
6.
last two hands as he's accumulated probably around 30 or 40% of his stack there. Now he's got a 9-10 offsuit on the button. He's chipped up a bit here to pretty close to about 25 big blinds, so enough room here to make some light opens on the button and keep that balanced range. So he's going to go ahead and raise here to 100,000 with 9-10 offsuit. And I think we're going to see some resistance from Velkia in the small blind with an ace-8 offsuit. It doesn't look like a pretty starting hand, but remember guys, we're playing three-handed and we've seen a lot of wide openings and wide holdings now. This is a battle zone, so we're not going to see folds from marginal hands. We're going to see action.
280.
Oh, sorry, 280. 280. 280. Getting confused with these, sorry.
Yeah, that's going to create some fantastic clashes throughout what we're seeing here now. A 3-bet to 280,000 with the ace 8.
You know, it's a fake tank.
To me.
Players in the
A little on the small side there.
Oh my god, 30 in a row.
That's saying the first place.
This was 100,000. The 3-bet was 280,000. Often out of position players are going a little bigger. I suspect what might be happening there is looking at Adam's stack depth. So it's not so much about the size of the 3-bet, but the size of the stack to pot ratio. So we're looking at Adam's stack, and
That was a weak one.
Elk's just making the decision that if I raise to 2.8x, that should be enough to get the job done. And that's his objective. And it looks like he got that through. So nice play, good size,
You can mark two.
and we're off to the next hand. Tom, I got another question for you, and a curious one with this shot clock, right? And this is another sort of discussion type thing, right? So I believe, and this happened to me in one of these last little hyper turbo shot clock tournaments here in Cambodia. If someone bets, let's say a really big bet, or most likely the bet is all in, right? Obviously, as a player looking to make the call, we need to know how much the all-in bet is. And sometimes it can take the dealer 30 seconds to count someone's stack. So obviously, the shot clock has to be paused. It gets restarted once the dealer announces the amount that the bet is. That's right?
Yes, that's right.
So how about this, right? I was in a hand where I check raised all in on a river and covered my opponent. The player on the river asked for a count, and the dealer said, "Oh, well, he covers you, so I don't need to count it." It was very obvious. The player was trying to pause the clock and get more time by asking for a count. It was clear that I covered him, so the question is, does it matter still if it's obvious? Because we need to know as a player, and his argument was, well, I need to know how much the other guy is willing to risk of his stack, because that's part of the process. So that is information I need to know. The bet itself clearly doesn't change anything. It's clear I was putting him all in. What do you make of that?
I think it is important in a couple of ways. So, firstly, obviously, if the action is closed by that player, so it's only you and heads up, so if he's covered, then there is a little bit more of an argument towards the dealer's side that if closes action, he's covered and it is a life or death tournament decision, then perhaps there is less reason to know the amount. But asking the amount and either having the player count it out for you or the dealer count it out for you is going to give you stimulus input in reading your opponent and sizing up what their hand range is or what this hand means to them. So when I look at body language, it tells from a physio-psychological scientific point of view, we talk about stimulus, which is what causes your body to make certain reactions, and what happens after those reactions. And one of those stimulus points is going to be what the total value of your stack is. So I do think that that actual number is an important thing for the opponent to know. If you're all in for 14 million and he only has 3 million, when that dealer announces that there is 14 million chips in play, that will create a stimulus reaction in you. And that's information to the other player with the 3 million in play in this example that would need to be used to make his decision. So I think even with you being covered, or you covering him, he actually is entitled to know what that count is.
And that warrants stopping the shot clock, right?
I think that the amount of times that the shot clock would be paused for that is less important or less of a risk in the integrity of the tournament than the amount of information that is gained.
Agree.
So I do think that the shot clock pausing would be
it only really adds like 15 seconds, right?
Whilst it's effectively giving him half an extra time bank chip, it's only happening in every situation when you are all in. It's not happening in a vet situation because they are having to be counted. So it's such a marginal spot, but it's another really interesting philosophical discussion to have about shot clocks. There is dynamics that get added that we only experience as we experience them.
Tom, we just had a really interesting hand there. Probably, arguably, one of the most interesting spots so far. I'm upset we missed the action, but I'm going to recall it. So it looks like there's a lint from the small blind by Sean with 10-6 offsuit. Let's check the big blind with King-7 of diamonds. Flop came down Ace-Jack Deuce with 2 diamonds. I believe there was a bet call by Adam. Turn, I think, was an 8 or something like that. And then it went bet call again. Adam's calling down with king high, but the flush draw. Sean's just bluffing through here, trying to rep the ace. Both players are doing a really optimal play in this situation because they're making sense with their bets and their lines. River card, it looked to be a 6, maybe a 5, but whatever it was, Sean had 10 high and he put a 350k bet in there. Adam called that bet with king high only. It was right. 350. What a spot. So Adam has really been patient in a lot of other spots. He's finally found a situation where he had a really strong player read, a strong read on the dynamic of the player, the bets, the board texture. It's calling down with just the king high, and he was right. Coming back to my prediction for this tournament, got my money on Adam here. I'm a bit biased because he was a guest on my podcast and he did share a lot with us on there. So if you're interested to know more about Adam, go to the Australian Poker Mindset on your podcast platforms and have a listen to our conversation. Adam's a phenomenal player, as are the rest of these players. But I still got beef with Velk, and I'm being playful here because of ends that Velk and I had in my poker diaries. Tremendous player as well. I don't quite know Sean just yet, but I'm enjoying the aggression by Sean. I'm enjoying the performance by all 3 players right now. I think this is a really high quality final table. So
yeah, super talented. Adam Carmen was on the delivering end of one of my favourite hands filmed from last year, where he managed to navigate away from the second nut full house to a bottom quads on a 3-5-8 board. His set of 8s against his opponent's set of 3s, turn of a 3 and a river of a 9. Now, it would be almost impossible for his opponents to have pocket 9s given the way the hand was played, and he lost the absolute minimum with his second nut full house to his opponent's quads. He sniffed it out perfectly and instead of getting stacked, was able to further go on and take out that event last year. It was a really, really well assessed hand. And one thing that I see from Adam, very much so throughout this stream, and anytime we really have him on stream, he's not afraid to take control of the pace of play.
325 from
It's a
C2.
little harder to do with the shot clocks. We had a question from Sam Caulfield in Twitch chat just asking were the shot clocks from day 2 onwards. So the advertised structure for this event has changed in that the shot clocks came in with 24 players. When I talk about pace of players, Adam is a calm and slower paced player. He doesn't feel, or certainly doesn't appear to feel, the immediate peer pressure to perform at the pace of play or rate of play that everyone wants him to do. He's happy to take his time, think through his decisions, and you'll find himself thinking through, certainly on the right side of most of those decisions. The time bank chips will, hamper that process for him a little bit, but he's got enough there to keep throwing in and thinking through his game plan. We've seen plenty of that from Adam.
Fun fact for Adam, he used to be a FIFA pro, one of Australia's best. Talking FIFA, the soccer computer game. Say computer game, I sound like I'm 50 years old. PS4, PS5, Xbox, I don't know, whatever it is you play it on. He went and traveled even to Vegas to play a FIFA tournament. So he's very familiar playing at high levels against high quality opponents.
Yeah, plenty of play between all three of these players. Russ Fogarty joins us. Afternoon, Tom and Brendan. Great to see our Aussies do well in Cambodia. The Goliath has been very entertaining to watch there in the cube. Some really solid poker. Yeah, there certainly has been. Russ, it's unusual not to see you in the room. I'm hoping we shall see you back here throughout the remainder of the series. Of course, for those looking to play poker, the Campbelltown Catholic Club has all the action that you need this week. If you haven't already, AustralianPokerTour.com.au or Facebook APT Live Reporting.
Sure.
Take a look at that series schedule. The Drakakis Players Championships is in effect across the room. We'll be changing to that broadcast shortly. We'll give you an update on the runners and riders. We'll of course head over there at the completion of this final table. But as far as other big tour series events this week, we then move on to the absolute prestige cars, the Grind, which is expecting an enormous turnout, and of course the Maddox Mindset main event, which has a $250,000 guarantee. Both are still opportunity playable events for you, as well as Shannon the Poker PI and the team from Mixed Games Academy offering a range of mixed games here now at the Australian Poker Tour as well. So there truly is a game variant for everyone this week, and if you've got the opportunity, Campbelltown Catholic Club is exactly where you want to be.
C2 mate on 2-5.
For those not quite lucky enough to be internationally poker touring at the moment, like yourself, Mr. Ruby.
I appreciate the comment, and I'm certainly lapping up my experience. I was deprived of it for a very long time, so very happy to get out and venture out and create some more cool content. So I was able to get a decent chunk of content for my WPT main event here in Cambodia. So I was able to get a media pass and have approval to do some filming. So very excited to release that after my first installment of the Poker Diaries, which you can find on my YouTube. So just go and search my name on YouTube, Brendan Ruby, and find a little bit more about what I'm doing with all that stuff. A lot of action here in Asia. There's a lot of great poker tournaments going on, actually. So it's a very different field going on here. They play a little differently here, and a discussion that often comes up when I'm talking to people about playing in different countries is how do we adjust our style, right? Because we talk about a lot of exploitative poker, and when you're playing in different countries, people play very differently. There's a lot of weird stuff going on in the tournaments here, so how do we adjust to that?
Yeah, it's super interesting to us. We actually find it just from a state by state. The adjustments that we can notions that are in the pace of play or the change in play or the dynamic in play by touring through different states. But you're about to drop the big truth bomb on us. The answer is...
It was actually going to be a spoiler, or a cliffhanger, sorry. The answer, you can find out if you want to do some private coaching.
I did not want to double barrel.
I think that is only too fair. And look, for those looking to find Brendan or the Video Poker Diaries, those links are being pasted into the Twitch and Facebook chats for you now. This is Video Poker Diaries Part 1. It'll link you to his YouTube channel as well. But like I spoke earlier, this really gives you an insight into the mindset of a game and hand-specifically thought process throughout the hand. It's not a highlight reel. It's not a, hey, cool, here's all the hands that I won. It's you in the tank. It's you working through your thought process. There are winning hands. There may be some losing hands. I won't spoil the diaries for anyone, but I'm excited to see the next part.
Yes, part 2 is due to be released within the next couple of days. And part 1, we'll let you guys know that it features Daniel Belkovic, who we're watching here right now in action. And he certainly has put me to the test in my poker diaries. So if you want more insight as to some other hands with him, go and check that out. Guys, make sure you're sharing that stuff around, because I put a lot of heart and passion into what I'm doing, and for me to know whether I'm getting some interest in it, to do more of it, I need to know that you guys are enjoying it. If you're not enjoying it, then I don't want to keep doing it, right? So I need some feedback here.
Yes, I think you'll certainly be getting plenty of positivity from what you're putting out, Brendan. It's excellent content. Make sure you get on and have a look, folks. It's all for your education, and I assure you it's going to help your game thought process as well. Matty Parker joins us in Facebook chat. Run it up, Adam. Brandon Bailey also tagging Sean Oy, just giving a shout out to him on the stream as well. And there we are, some immediate feedback to the Poker Diaries. Russ Fogarty just confirming he watched the last episode and found it really awesome.
You're too kind, Russ. Thank you. This episode 2 will be released in the next couple of days, so make sure you stay tuned, stay subscribed, do all that stuff.
And I'm extracting some chips through Sean Oy now. Sean at 6.1 million, Daniel at 2.6, and Adam just hovering under the 2 million, 1.9 million, and some small change.
You guys are running out of time.
The payouts for these players, a small deal was made at 14 players remaining, simply to get them out of their play. The shot clock's coming in at 24 players. Players were enjoying that pace of play, and they found that the hand-for-hand was slowing them down. So 2,000 was taken off first, 500 was taken off second, and 200 was taken off 12th and 13th. To pay 14 players $2,900. What that also did then was rip the game back into its pace of play.
Can't change it now.
And it has created a first prize. We'll be taking home $66,000 entry into the Tournament of Champions, and also entry into
it's not like anyone's stalling for pay
that $1,250 buy-in tournament to be held in Bankstown Sports Club in October. That $1,250 entry is
it's like 1 per hour. It's not
the tournament price point.
We're going to be
the exciting part about the vault is, of course, the guarantee. There is a $150,000 guaranteed for the first prize.
1 an hour.
More than double.
You get 30 seconds an hour. That's crazy.
Just under double what we're playing for here today at a $2,500 price point. It's going to be a massive tournament, and it really becomes a must play on the circuit. So that's what they're taking home for first. 66,000 plus the vault entry, plus the TOC entry. Second prize takes home 44,000, and all 3 players have guaranteed themselves at least 30,000.
It makes sense when it's 2 tables.
I say, Tom, the idea of doing a deal when there's 15 left based on all those factors you just mentioned to speed up the game and make it more enjoyable in whatever way, don't really see that in casino-run games, right? Because of the regulations and restrictions around that. So it's one of those benefits around these APT-type tournaments where the operators have a bit more free room to maneuver through players you know, discretion and in the best interest of the game. Another thing, you know, to back up what we were saying earlier about how well these operators are running the games and providing that amazing, exciting, and let's say accommodating experience.
Yeah, it really is interesting. And there was a lot of pushback and some needling to Hassan for allowing that deal to go through yesterday when he was sitting at about 4 million in chips. Why on earth would he want to pay 14th place when he's sitting there pretty healthily looking like he's going to take home the win? But it was much more a decision to get that pace of play back in line with what they were enjoying with the shot clocks. And
Let's skip
a
2
little
levels.
bit of balance and pushback from the players.
Just
We didn't
take
take
all
all
of
the
the
money off
poker
first. We took
tournament
a bit of money
directions
off first, a bit of
window.
money off
Have them big
second,
man, please, and
and a bit of
anti.
money off 12 and 13
No
to
function,
create
no
that payout and get us straight back into that pace of play. And that certainly makes a lot of sense to have a deal that goes down in those ways.
Yeah, look, and I think that's a fair call to criticize the chip leader at that stage, because what a great time to be the chip leader on the bubble. You know, it's a great time to accumulate chips where people are going to make some bigger folds. So fair call. Everyone has their reasons, right? And everybody plays poker for different reasons as well.
Check from C6.
So if Hassan has agreed to the deal, he's done it for his own reasons, right?
And this is one of the things that we talk about with getting to know your opponents, or understanding why your opponents are playing poker, and how important that information is to you. Hassan made the joke that he was into this tournament for 17,500 yesterday. A couple of bullets for himself and a couple of bullets for his partner, Alyssa. But of course, the Goliath only offering that single re-entry. You know, we know what they can and can't possibly be in for, but understanding what your opponents are in for, what this buy-in means to them, maybe if they've satellited their way into that tournament, all of that is information as to what this means and what this dynamic means and what type of pressure you can and can't apply to these players. We're spending so much time on the felt, it would be remiss of us not to just be talking to our opponents and picking up all of these wonderful pieces of info.
And we have a very interesting one unfolding here.
Super fun spot with both players with the best hand. Both players with the same hand.
Yeah, remember how I said earlier with the ace-6 where both players had the same hand? I love these situations where to observe how the position, how the action of who's the betting leader, who's going to have advantages on certain boards, and how they're going to navigate through that, who's in position. The players here have the same hand. Velk has raised on the button. Adams defended the big blind. Flop's gone check, bet, call. Surprisingly, the turn went check, check. So Velk has gone for more of a passive route with his top pair, even though that turn seems like an insignificant turn card. The river brings the queen of clubs, which completes the flush. So Adam's going to check with his pair of eights, most likely because obviously the queen is a bit of a scare card for his hand. So he's probably looking to check and potentially either win at showdown or induce some bluffs, or potentially a bit more information on the bet size and the player read, and potentially make call, fold, or maybe even a raise and turn his hand into a bluff. Let's go on and bet 220 into a pot of about 400. So about half pot bet here. I think Velk's thinking that Adam has got a hand like a pair of sevens, a pair of threes on the flop,
5, 4,
even a pair of fours, right? Could have 4-5, 4-6. Adam is fold.
Not too many queens that he's going to be able to put him on based on the way that the hand has essentially been played. You know, he's not queen 7, queen 8, queen 9. But there are strange two-pair hands. And there are obviously the clutch draws completing. Adam's decided to find a better spot.
A very conservative river fold there by Adam. So we've seen Adam make calls with king high, and then he's folding second pair with little to no information, I would say, in that hand. There was a very small amount of action that actually happened, and he's made a fold there with the same hand. goes to show you what I was saying earlier. Sometimes it's not exactly just about your hand. It's about the position. It's about the bet sizes. It's about the action. It's about the board texture.
Much just talking cards.
He's quite the yapper.
Sean's made a 2.5 times big blind raise here on the button with 9-7 of hearts. He's got a Jack 5 of clubs here. I'm going to go to a flop. So it'll flop there for Sean.
150 from seat 2.
Sean's going to lead out for 150. And he's going to take that one down pretty easily.
Get out of line one time.
No interest at all in that one. To say there's a bit of a difference here with the bet sizing when we compare Adam, Sean to Vel. All three players seem to be choosing different styles, different strategies, different bet sizes with all sorts of different hands, which is the dynamics you're trying to figure out when you're in the final three, or especially in early stages of the tournament, because the stacks are much more significant now. Every single chip that goes into the pot is so valuable. So it's interesting to see these different bet sizes.
So we talk about the chips in play. The orange chips is the 5,000 piece, the blue chips is the 25,000, the pink chips at the front is 100,000. And we had a point yesterday that with 106 entries, each one of those pink chips in play represents an individual tournament life out there on the felt, Brendan.
Absolutely.
One of your fallen opponents represented simply by a simple pink chip.
Velk's limped in here from the small blind with an ace-9 suit. If you're wondering why we're seeing a lot of limps from the small blind, it's something else you can figure out if you want to work with me in one-on-one coaching. I love giving you but not all of it.
That's only too fair. We've spoken about the Video Poker Diaries, of course. Where are they going, Brendan, if they want to talk to you about coaching and training?
Yeah, just send me an email at my email address, brendanruby@gmail.com. So that's BRENDONRUBIE@gmail.com. You can send me a message through Facebook. You can send me a message through Instagram. Look, it's 2023, Tom. People know how to find people very easily. Simple Google search. You'll figure it out. Find me, contact me, and I can try my best to help. Doing coaching for about 8 years now, Tom, and I absolutely love it. I love working with people. I predominantly work as a mindset coach, as you know, Tom, and a peak performance coach.
I saw it, but
I also do fundamental coaching.
Yeah, literally just slipped up in front of me.
Or we could play with you, us knowing you have the edge.
And a huge addition to your coaching.
You just jam, yeah?
So just repertoire, maybe the
I
right
think
word.
that's the situation.
Completion of your bachelor's in counselling. It's almost 2.5 years ago. It's nearly 3 years that degree was complete now, Brendan.
Honestly, it was pre-COVID, so it feels like a lifetime ago, Tom.
It does indeed, doesn't it?
Yes, I have certainly upskilled and put in the hard yards and got myself a Bachelor of Counselling and Coaching because I really wanted to go deeper with people when I work with them. You know, poker's a very emotional game. It's a very challenging game that triggers us, and often those triggers can be from past experiences that we have that we carry into the game. Often what happens, to come back to what you said about when there's a stimulus, you know, there's something that happens, whether it's a bet size or something, or an all-in bet, or a different card that comes off the deck. We often have a trigger to that stimulus, and then what's the most important thing is there's a behavior that follows that. And for some people, they may freeze up. For some people, they might go on tilt, or what have you. So there's many things that can happen. So the way I work is to get more intimate with the people I work with and try and figure out what's really going on there underneath the surface, but more importantly, what we can actually do to manage those things so the behavior doesn't impede our ability to play some really good poker.
case you're joining us. Let's go. So good to have Brendan and Ruby tell us all the pro plays. Let's go. Going to watch this one a couple more times. Let's go, Sean. Thanks for joining us, D. Couldn't agree more. Distinct privilege to have Brendan Ruby joining us. Also, of course, it would be remiss not to remind those that aren't familiar with the fact that Brendan Ruby has also won this tournament right here before. He is a Goliath champion.
Oh, either way.
So kind, Tom. So kind.
Chose Kings.
Just walk the walk, you talk the talk.
That Goliath trophy, coming back to that, it's a very good paperweight. If you have a lot of paper that you're carrying, very good paperweight. It's a very heavy, delicious looking trophy.
You know, I want to say that the trophy is so hefty it would weight down a phone book, but people don't know what a phone book is anymore, Brendan.
You're showing your age there, Tom.
Oh, it's such a disappointing thing. For those that don't know, I also have performed for many years as a magician, and one of the best tricks I do is a phone book prediction. And I can take a number from anywhere inside a phone book and it's painted up behind me, and it's a phenomenal showpiece. But these days I pull out a phone book and nobody knows what it is. I've got to modernise. It's a terrible shame.
No, I was last night just here in Cambodia going out for dinner with a couple of the Australian players here. So some of you may be familiar with Gavin Best, really great pro from Adelaide. Again, calling out the Adelaide boys, there's a few of them here. When I was out on my venture, you can get this app, so it's kind of like Uber, it's called Grab, and you go and you basically order a tuk-tuk. So you can, you know, there's little like scooter type things, and just thinking, and I was joking with some of the guys, like, man, there was a time where people didn't have these apps, you know, you didn't, like, people would walk around with like street directories figuring out how to get from A to B. I just don't imagine what it would be like traveling without my phone, without these apps, without this convenience. It's really changed the game.
Yeah, international travel now. I mean, the Lonely Planet guides that we used to carry around with us have now been condensed to an app and potentially even an audio walkthrough tour. It's made things much different, and perhaps much easier, I should think, as well.
It's also sort of evolved the way that we even navigate through our poker tournaments, right? So, you know, like things from registering to tournaments. I mean, I know the World Series, I think this year, are doing these online things where you don't have to line up now. You just register and go and pick up your ticket from a machine and all that sort of stuff. You know, and even so, the King's Room in St George Leagues Club, which I've been working with, they are working with, I believe it's Poker Atlas. I can't remember exactly. Basically, you can log on to their website whenever there's a tournament, and you can watch the clock, right? And you can see actually the stage of tournament. You can see chip stacks and everything. So you're getting way more real-time, up-to-date action just simply logging on. So that's pretty cool, I think.
The Australian Poker Tour is certainly utilising that technology as well. AustralianPokerTour.com.au. Click on tournament details and you can do exactly that. You can see the running clock, the registered players, current prize pool, when registration closes for every event that's running. We have a look and you see the real-time figures for the Drakakis Players Championships, which is over on the other side of the room. 74 players in that field with a prize pool of $95,875. On top of that $95,000 prize pool as well is that $12,000 Drakakis jewellery ring.
I've got to say, that has taken the game to that just next level. Just when I think we can't go even to that next level, you know, being able to find out that information is so valuable.
Access to information in regards to game selection is so important, and we've got that at our fingertips. If I want to go and have a look at what tournaments are on, I simply need to look through the live feed link at the AustralianPokerTour.com.au, click on any of the running tournaments, and I can see who's in, what's happening, what the blinds are at, how many players are registered, and decide with all of that available information which tournament I want to play.
But I've got a question for your community here, Tom. So, talking about my Poker Diaries stuff, obviously I'm doing some documentary style stuff with what I'm doing. Which poker players in Australia, because I'm targeting someone to film them doing poker diaries on the Australian Poker Mindset. So I want to pick a player I can film and follow their pre-game routine, their in-game action, and share hands and experiences that they're in. So, guys, I need some suggestions. Who should I hunt down? Who should I hunt down and get on the poker diaries and do a nice docu-series about?
Yeah, it's a great question, folks. So you're live, of course, joining us at APT Live on Facebook and twitch.tv/LCA Poker. Who would you want to see? The thought process, the game preparation, and the in-play footage. We're going to go head hunting. Brendan's on the look for another person to be following that diary. Who do you want to see? Edward Ferris, straight away. Brendan, do Mark Yazbak. Well, you know him well, Brendan. He comes with his own catchphrase of "you just got Yazbacked." It would be a very entertaining pre-game. He's certainly a celebratory player on the table. Price Trevor straight in with Mina Torfik as well.
I feel like with different players, we would probably go from like the drama section of the video store to the comedy section to the thriller section to the, you know, like depending on this style of play.
I definitely think you're going to have a whole lot of mixed genres there with Yazbek as your man. Mina Torfik just taking out the APT main event in Queensland. The last series, a suggestion from Price Trevor that he may be someone to look at. He's been a player on the Felton in the tour for some time and a main event champion.
Okay, this is good. Keep them coming, guys. I like this. Some of these guys I haven't really heard of before, so it's good to know.
All right, Adam.
I do really appreciate one part of that video game diaries, which was that pre-game. It's so important. We just don't talk about it enough. Players on the poker circuit who find themselves just getting to a poker room and thinking, oh, well, I'm here. I'm mostly on time. That's probably about enough to get myself ready to play poker. The amount of energy, effort, and mindset that is just being given up and sacrificed, and what that does to your game, it seems such a waste. We just don't see it in any other sport. You know, Tiger Woods doesn't turn up to the PGA hoping that he's packed his putter.
Adam,
So right. You're so right. And poker players, we are notorious for just kind of cruising through things, you know. We're playing ridiculous hours, we're eating meals at 2 a.m, we're sleeping in until 5 minutes before we have to restart, and it's just not going to sustain over the long haul. And this is the biggest thing I think I've learned in my 15 years of this game, Tom. Might be able to keep it up for a year or two, but if you want to keep up this over the long haul, and actually have consistent results over the long haul, that should be and staying in the game for the long haul. So it's sort of like when we look at sports and we look at athletes, we praise people like, let's say, LeBron or Ronaldo or Messi, where they're still playing these high-level games at such a late age, right? So there are other players who I'm sure have reached their level, but for such a short period of time because their body or their mind hasn't been able to sustain over the long haul. So the key here is we need to be looking at poker. The way I view it, it's called like an infinite or a finite game. So some people might be familiar with this. If you want to know more about it, go and research Simon Sinek. He talks about it a lot, as I'm sure a lot of other people do. Basically, when we look at finite and infinite games, a finite game might be something that's like right here, right now. Okay, so a soccer game or even just one poker tournament, right? There's a clear objective. There's a clear time frame of how that's going to happen, and it just sort of like, it's a very confined thing, right? But the thing is, if you're a soccer team and you win one game, it's not enough, because you have another game next week, and then you've got the Champions League, and then you've got the Europa League or whatever it is. So we need to be in it for the infinite game, which is the long game, the game that it never ends. It's a game we keep playing and playing and playing. Something else that's more like an infinite game would be business or love. So in business and love, you know, when we're looking at our relationships, it's a game we want to be able to keep playing and playing and playing and coming back to and growing as we're going. because there's no end point, right? And that's what I love about poker. Even if you go and win the World Series of Poker main event, and I just had Joe Hashem on my podcast as well, which, you know, we talked about different things like this. It still doesn't end there, you know? You still want to keep going. You still want to keep improving your character. So the way I want us to look at poker is from an infinite game point of view. How can I constantly be improving myself and my character? And I promise you that if you start to fall in love with that process for yourself, your relationships with other people, your life outside of poker, and your balance with life and poker are going to improve, and then your poker is also going to improve. We have a hand here.
Yeah, we do indeed. We've got an extraction with the pair, or two pair, of course, Jack 5s, and Sean's slightly bigger two pair, 7-3s. What we said yesterday was Sean really is able to extract value by just changing up pace of play, dynamics and sizing. And he's able to squeeze a little extra value out of Adam in that hand again.
Adam's had a few hands there where he's had the second best hand and has not been able to get away from it without losing some crucial chips there. So got himself down to 900,000. Sure, he's just doing a little count of his stack there to make sure he knows exactly whose stack is, because that's paramount to how he's going to play hands. He's going to give Velk a walk there.
Ace is cracked joining us. What happened with the chip leader from last night's chips? Would have expected a medal position. Asano Nay, a brutal last three hands with an exchange of chips. An aggressive 7-3 of diamonds into the ace-king of Sean on a 2-diamond flop. Sean turning the king for top pair. In fact, two pair. It was a paired board with diamond draw. Hassan continuing to fire into him. And Sean was able to call off through that hand. The flush didn't went on the river, and Sean snap called a big bet from Hassan. And then an exchange of chips where Hassan flopped two pair, Velk flopped the open ender, and that straight closed down on the turn. It was a pretty rough exchange at the end of last night's session, and unfortunately for Hassan, the session pretty much continued in the same form today. He finishes fourth place, but he does take home $21,000 for his fourth place finish.
8, 5, 6, 6.
500 behind. Is it?
What's that?
Alrighty, those of you
Ace
that
8,
Carcass
Ace
players
6.
check,
Now we've got a
right
situation
now
here where
on screen,
this isn't an
we are
all-in
playing
race.
top 9 from this event day.
So Adam Carmen has adopted one of the new race strategies, which
Min
is
cash
most
$3,200.
of the chips,
Up top,
but
we've
not
got
all of the chips.
$31,000 plus the Carcass
Yeah, I
players
suspect what he might be
champions
doing
ring.
here is trying to confuse his opponent a little bit. Force him to make his own little calculations in his head, because if we just go all in, we can ask the dealer to count it,
We're
and there's a
giving
bit
away
of a
another
cheat
piece
sheet
of your
there.
Carcass jewelry later this
If
year.
we bet
In
2/3 of our stack, clear
tournament.
that Adam has committed himself to the hand, but you can see now that Sean's in a bit of a bin here. He's frustrated, he doesn't know how much it is or how much he's committing and how much he stands to win. He's just got to do those few extra calculations. For Adam, even though Adam's got the best hand, as we can see, wants a fold here. Say it's not a very strong hand in an all-in situation, so he wants a fold. He wants to accumulate some uncontested chips.
Yeah, 10, Sean. 5. Oh, cool. Oh. Yes, correct. Yeah.
So because this isn't a full all-in, and Sean has been played as an all-in, Adam still actually
put in
has
one
chips
chip.
behind. Sean has tabled his hand, and Adam now is going to be blessed with the opportunity.
And we both just
Play
played.
post. The hand
Correct,
will be
this is
kept
the way.
live.
He threw in one
But
chip and turned
Yeah, he
over his
threw in
head
one
and
chip
then
and
I
turned over
turned
his
over.
Will
cards.
now get
Correct.
to call the small remaining chips that he's
Okay,
left
so
himself
will be a call of that bet here.
post flop.
Yep.
We've got chips behind.
Careful 85
Bit of a rough
Christian.
spot. Both players, but
Hands
Can I have my hand back there?
So
there's no way that this hand isn't going to
each player knows what the other has.
anyway.
Lol.
Unless
How much?
there is an ace.
It's interesting though. I mean, how much more does Adam have here behind him?
I am going to
That was made a 6. Didn't even. Oh god. 3, 4, 5.
7 bigs.
Oh,
But I'm going to confirm that exact.
I think this benefits me here.
The flop comes King Queen 3 or something. Oh look, I mean the ace is obviously
Oh,
gonna
this is
just
dope.
end the hand here, but
Yeah, how many behind?
if it was a flop that Sean misses on, Adam can actually successfully.
That's right. It's
I think
a
so.
really, really tough spot when he sees that Sean misses and Adam can actually take down a big pot
can't afford
with a small remaining hand.
Even now, it's like, does Adam check
Okay,
here?
so we have
Does he
ace
bet?
8
Or, you know, like,
versus ace 6.
On the
I
flop,
mean, they both hit the ace, but they're not going to fold.
It's your 16 big blind jam that got me, you know.
21
They played it
outs
through
for the
16.
chops.
There's one of them.
And there it is. Board immediately pairs and chops out through. Adam makes a small profit.
I'll take
Of
your,
course, taking in part of that ante
Oh yeah, warning me, yeah.
contested small blind.
So
You know that's not intentional, right?
the onus is on you to know what.
Yeah, yeah.
The light call there by Sean with the ace 6.
I was just
think he's
thinking-
just looking to take a spot there, try and knock out Adam.
So it's definitely something we're seeing a lot more on the streams now, Brendan, this philosophy of basically betting all your stack bar one chip or
I'm gonna give him all
all your
that.
stack bar a very, very small amount. It does a multiple things. It certainly creates an interesting ICM ladder point post-flop.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I think it's the fact that
Majority
you
of
chose
the outcomes
when you jam
that hand
60.5 days. Very interesting.
just leaves themselves on.
You don't have aces, don't have
The
kings.
key thing I do need to
That's
raise
Before
That's
come,
that's
before.
absolutely
Yeah,
no
you're right. I
reason
don't have aces.
for Adam. He
Yeah,
wasn't
cool.
putting out
You
chips
don't have it, right?
to hopefully get Sean to table his
Aces-
hand and
aces-
misrepresenting that. He had specifically
open
bet
with
left
aces.
chips
3-minute
behind,
bub.
and it is part of this new strategy we're seeing players adopt a lot more
Sure,
often.
he'll get some electrolytes into his body.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no question that there was any sort of angle there. It's
So get
just a
some
new
electrolytes.
strategy that it just adds that extra layer of trying to confuse our opponent and trying to force them to make more calculations and trying to achieve
Well, don't hit a 6.
whatever objective we're trying to achieve with our bets. So
NKY Nico joins us, who's commentating. It is Tom Bauer from LCA Poker and Australian Poker Pro Brendan Ruby in the booth. For those unfortunately complaining about the volume of my microphone, unfortunately that is the volume of my health, I'm afraid. Not in the peak condition that you usually hear my dulcet tones, but still enjoying myself furiously, and I'll do my best to talk up so you can all hear my words of wisdom. But we're blessed with Brendan Ruby joining us, so we'll let him take on most of the hard work. It's not even work, is it, Brendan? What a privilege.
this is the passion. You said earlier, when you do what you love, you don't feel like it's work, right?
Well, I love waking up with pocket kings and having the redraw for the spades as well. Adam with the absolute best of it on this board. Playing them very, very snug. Are open to 100k. Adams disguised as flat made the call. Checks the flop. Verk leads 75,000.
Yeah, this is a really nice little balance here by Adam. If he 3-bets from the big blind with a hand this strong, he's going to push a lot of other hands out of the pot. So very hard to get dealt these hands, especially when you're playing 3-handed. So it's not a bad idea to slow play every now and then. The little risk that the ace might come on the flop. Mostly it won't. You can get lots more action from our hand and value.
Like, Steven, I honestly thought you had to rule my hand there.
The 4 now completes a pair for
Never get
Daniel,
it.
which isn't going to make him feel particularly confident, but it gives him a little extra potential push. It's hard to make a pair and hold him. It does bring spades live, but Adam, of course, with the redraw to the king high flush with the
I'm
spade.
not sure he still didn't. He
He's not going
still
to be
didn't remember.
too
He's just
concerned about that spade closing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure it's just going to go check here a lot. I don't think Velk's overly interested in betting now. I mean, he's beating some draws here. You know, he's connected, but before, if Adam has hands like Queen 9, 8, 9, and whatnot. Wow.
What a river.
Oh my goodness.
You get punished for playing your hand snugly. You get punished for balancing.
Understand.
A 4 of diamonds will be punished.
Let's confirm this is not a graphic error. That is actually the 4 of diamonds.
That is a 4 to the point where we would say 4. What a 4.
Goodness.
Honestly, I
So
didn't
now
even
this
realize
is
that.
an interesting one. I mean, Adam's going to lead out here, it looks like. He's grabbed some chips.
No, actually,
And he has every reason to believe he
has.
has the best hand here. He's got pocket kings in a slow played pot. Flush got there on the board on the turn, but there's a check, and Adam's also got a king. Spades there blocking it. He's going to quickly make the call with the trips. He's decided not to make the raise, given that there are flushes out there. And look at that body language by Adam.
Yeah.
Cannot believe it.
Looks up the clock size. We can even see by this pace. He tabled his hand before Velk even had a chance to turn his cards. Quick call, like a quick table. Yeah, I should be good here. There's my kings.
Can I get you?
Can't believe
How
it.
many time
And I
banks
tell you,
you got there?
folks, that break couldn't come at a better time for Adam to.
6. Okay, so 2.
Hang on, I just need to shrug off
2,
what's just happened here.
and 2.
We see it's 2 hours of play. All 3 players have 2 time bank chips refreshed. We are going to take a 10-minute break for the players, though, for their comfortability. We'll return with the continued action in 10 minutes' time. It's Tom Bauer and Brendan Ruby commentating here at the Campbelltown Catholic Club for all the action of the Goliath final table. Welcome back, viewers. We return from the break live at the Campbelltown Catholic Club for all the action of the Goliath final table. Big exchange of chips in that last hand as Daniel Velk was able to river trip fours. A couple of questions in Twitch and Facebook chats. Wasn't that all of his chips? It wasn't all of them. He just did flat off as the trip fours did close out the flush draw. Hasn't got all of Adam's stack in, but in this hand, all of Adam's stack is in with the remaining 10-6 in the small. Ripping and unfortunately finding himself in the dominated position by Daniel's Queen 10.
Yeah, with only looks like 4 or 5 big blinds, I think Adam's going to put it in there with pretty much 80 or 90% of hands. So it's pretty standard here, but he's run into it. See what happens.
We want to take in all of that yummy, yummy uncontested money, but in a world of hurt now. We know the 6 of hearts being folded as well, so only 2 outs. And the break doesn't do what it needs to, but it does mean that we are heads up. Brendan, Sean Oy versus Daniel Velkovic. 7.3 million for Sean, 3.3 million for Daniel. Blinds only at 30,000, 60,000 with a 60,000 big blind, so plenty of depth and chips left in this tournament.
Yes, this is a very, very deep stack situation. This could go on for hours. But first, let's congratulate Adam for what another nice run he's had. Adam has had some fantastic runs over the last year or two in Australia. He's certainly one of the top pros right now. So very, very much happy to see him on another final table, performing at his best and putting on a nice show for us. So congratulations, Adam. Now we've got some action here, so heads up, the blinds are 30k, 60k. 7 million plays 3 million, is that right, Tom?
That is exactly right. We have a look at that chip distribution throughout our heads up now. 7.4 for Sean, 3.2 for Daniel.
Going to be interesting to see how the dynamics now change. Seen Elk play somewhat of a small ball strategy. He's kind of stayed a bit out of the action as we've been observing from the last hour or so, but let their heads up. He does not have a choice. He's going to have to contest and put Sean to the test, and Sean's going to do just the same thing. They battle it out with the chip advantage going to Sean as a 2-1 chip leader, but in my experience, Tom, anything can happen here. This is still anyone's game, especially with this structure. Our levels, blinds are small. We're going to see a lot of hands here. That said, you never know. I remember one of my big final tables in Sydney. It was similar to this. We were so deep stacked. I think we were both 70 or 80 big blinds deep each. There was a discussion of a deal, which was denied. And the second hand, I had pocket queens, and he had pocket jacks, and it was all in, and it was over. So,
yeah,
you never know.
really can go in exactly that way. Steve Pappas joins us. Great. Really enjoying the commentary, gentlemen. Great job. It's far too kind. Thank you, Pappas. Very firm fan favourite around the Sydney poker scene.
I think a fan favourite is an understatement there.
Yeah, it really is. Pappas is an absolute legend, honestly.
See you there.
Wonderful photo, only published today, actually, by Al Mayakan and the Australian Poker Weekly, of a young, suited Pappas from about 2003.
Oh, I got to see this one.
Yeah. Almost a full head of black hair from Steve Pappas. It was just a fond memory being shared. Suited up and the gentleman that he is at the tables. So thanks for joining us, Steve. And well done, Al, on the APW team for sharing that memory with us as well.
Shout out to Al, by the way. Al, if you don't know him, in this industry a long time, been promoting the game. And
yeah, truly a real sort of legend of Australian poker media, and has done it almost exclusively for passion for such a long period of time. The APW, which used to be a print media paper that came out weekly listing all of the poker events around Sydney and Australia. He's followed it up with continued linking in forums and through social media, and just done a tremendous job. He goes everywhere, he takes photos, he's a hard-working guy.
The key word I hear there is the passion, you know, and he really does have that for poker. And these days he seems to be kind of lurking around, but you don't really seem to see him that much. But I managed to catch him for one moment at the King's Room. He's taking some lovely photos, and nice to see a familiar face from over the years. I mean, ever since I got into poker 15 years ago, I was doing a lot of this and really promoting the game. So anyone who puts that extra work in, puts that passion in to promote the game, is a good friend of mine, Tom.
Yeah, I think that's a very, very fair summary indeed. So, Brendan, I'm going to take a brief step out of the room and give us an update on the Drakakis, which is happening across the felt, and some of the other tournaments. I will leave you in the booth solo for a moment. Plenty of questions coming in on both Twitch and Facebook chat. Any questions you have for Brendan Ruby or myself, fire those across to us in Twitch and Facebook. I look forward to returning to this continued action in a few moments' time with some updates from around the room.
Fantastic. I get free reign here. This is just me. I get to be with me, myself, and I. Get to share what I'm thinking about some hands. Let's talk about some hands. Ace Queen offsuit here in the big blind by Sean. Looks on the button here. He's made it a 2.5 raise pre-flop with 7-8 offsuit. Pretty standard raise. Often people go more of a min raise rather than a 2.5x. Sean's gone with the 3-bet there from the big blind, which is pretty well by the books with the ace-queen offsuit, and that's enough pressure to get Velk to fold. Heads up, it's going to be a lot harder to have stronger holdings, as we all know. So, expect to see some fireworks at some stage, but players heads up sometimes change their styles, you know, like you might see a certain style when you've got 9 players on the table, or 6 or 5 or 4. When you get heads up, it's a completely different ball game. I used to say that the most ultimate raw form of poker is no limit, heads up, hold'em. Because at any moment you could put your opponent all in to the test for their entire chip stack, and you're playing one-on-one. You have to play every hand in some sense because you're forced to with the blinds. Sean's got an 8 deuce here on the button. He's just going to limp in. Doesn't want to put any more chips in the pot. And Velk's got him dominated with Queen 8 of diamonds, and he's just chosen a check here. Queen 8 of diamonds is certainly a hand he can raise here to the small blind limp, but it looks like Velk wants to play a bit of a small ball strategy out of position, which is not necessarily a bad option. Ace King 8 on the flop here, rainbow, and Velk can feel quite confident to know that Sean's not going to have a lot of aces in his range, right? Because it was just a limped pot. So Sean sometimes might just have a king high hand with a pair of kings now, or most likely he's going to have a lot of hands that actually miss this board. So Velk's going to feel actually kind of comfortable there with a pair of 8s and a really strong kicker. Now Sean's gone out with a bet on the turn here. It looks like 100k. Not sure if Sean is expecting value from this hand or not, as I don't know how many hands Velk can be calling down here that are worse than a pair of 8s. Velk doesn't take that much time in making that call, and the river is just going to go check, check, and Sean's going to see the bad news, as he's heavily outkicked in this situation. And a nice little side fold there. The 8 deuce. Velkovic. Some little delicious chips to his stack. I suspect at this point, from what I've seen so far, Looks probably going to play a little bit of small ball strategy here to see if we can accumulate chips in smaller pots rather than playing some big bloated pots where we're betting big amounts and everything. He's probably going to look to try and accumulate, suss out his opponent and see how he can gain an edge. And vice versa, we're going to see Sean put Velk to the test, I'm sure, with more chips than him. Maybe pull off some bluffs. Put pressure on that stack that's much shorter than his. Queen 4 offsuit on the button here for Velk. It's gone with that raise size here to 2.5x again. And Sean's got a king 8 in the big blind, which is a pretty strong hand here, heads up to a single raise. At this point, it's not enough information to believe that we want to fold just yet. So let's see a flop. And if I'm king 8, I'm feeling pretty good at this point. 7, 8, 9 here offsuit. It's a pretty interesting flop when you get in heads-up situations because each player is forced to play a really wide and very gapped range of cards. So it's not as simple as thinking someone might just have 9, 10 or 10 jack or 8, 9. But people can have all sorts of hands here, as we can see, like king 8, queen 4. They're so far apart that the range of hands in our mind needs to expand because the distribution has expanded and we're forced to play more hands. Deal. At this point, I don't think there was any discussion of a deal. We'll confirm with Tom when he returns. But at this point, the only deal that seemed to have been made in this tournament was on the bubble, where 2 and maybe 2,500 was taken off first and second to pay the 15th place finisher because the bubble was potentially taking too long or it was chewing into the clock. So that's the only thing I know of at this point, but I will confirm when Tom returns in about 5 minutes. This is too deep. They should just slip. I agree. Let's just flip it and to the next tournament, right? Support here for Sean from Gerald. So close, Sean. We are all behind you. Sean's got pocket jacks here, and I certainly think that's going to help his case here for you and your support there, Gerald. It's going to raise the king 3 suited, which is a pretty beautiful looking hand when you're heads up. So he's going to feel all right about this one. Sean's going to make it look weak here with a little splashy 3-bet. Bit of a body language thing going on there. Trying to look weaker than he actually is, potentially. And it's not going to work. Velk's going to sniff that one out pretty quickly, and it's not going to pay to see a flop. Bert, I've got to give you a shout out here for those following. But just took down the 3K US No Limit Hold'em event here in Cambodia a couple of days ago. Massive result for over 100K US. Congratulations, Bert. Everybody in the chat, let's give Bert the love. Very big results, so very happy to see that. Did you win it, Bert? Did you just flip it? Heads up. What's your advice, Bert, for these two guys? Come on, give us a little bit here. You just won your heads up for a big amount. So what's the pressure? What's going on for them? It's a tip. chat here. Why can't we hear the players talk now? Well, both players aren't really doing much talking at the moment. So they're in the zone. They're looking to play their hands as optimally as possible. So we are not going to hear much interaction between these two players. They seem pretty calm, pretty collected this whole final table. So I doubt they're going to start interacting now when the stakes are incredibly high. Not only from a monetary point of view, but from a prestige point of view as well. All right, Velk's here with the king queen offsuit on the button. See that he's been raising every button. 7-8 offsuit, king 3, queen 4. So king queen is going to look pretty strong here for Velk, and Sean's going to defend the big blind. A bit of an action flop here. Sean's flopped a 9, 9-10-10 board, but Velk's interested here with overcards and a gut shot. There's flush draws here, the straight draws. A lot going on. Velk's going to down bet to 90k here. So he's looking to get some folds now from all sorts of hands that just whiff this board. You know, all the 5 high, the king 4s, even some ace highs. A nice small bet here is enough to do the trick against a lot of auto folds. Those hands that are just unconnected to this board. And it controls the size of the pot here.
Sean,
in case he has run into some sorts of a hand. I like the small bet here by Velk. It's going to gain a lot of information in pursuit of winning this hand. Sean's gone with just the check call here with the 9. I think at this stack depth, a check call is okay. I mean, sometimes we can check raise this flop as well, because there's not a whole lot of great runouts on this type of board. And Sean's gone with the passive route by just check calling the flop. And now on the turn, it's gone check, check, and look at this river card. Velk has made his straight. And not only has he made his straight, but he's made it without the diamonds getting there. I can guarantee you Sean's feeling very uncomfortable with that river card. Also knows that he is still beating a lot of hands that Velk could have. So he's reaching out for chips here.
215.
And I wonder if Sean believes that he's betting for value here. Is he hoping to get called by worse hands? Or is he potentially thinking that he is trying to bluff Velk off any better hands? Velk's just thinking now, how much more value can he get? He's obviously got a straight here. This bet by Sean is kind of small in relation to the pot. So Velk's feeling very confident about his straight, even though it's a paired board. So he's going to raise it up here to 900,000. It's about 4.5x what the original bet was. He's given Sean about a 2.5 to 1 price to call
Sean
here.
folds.
Unfortunately, Sean's going to throw his hand into the muck. The pressure of the shot clock. Remember, guys, they've got 30 seconds with all their decisions. Got a few time banks in there. That's precious time banks when the stakes are this high. So Sean's going to make that quick fold there, and it was the correct one. Probably hating himself for betting that river and not having an opportunity to get to a showdown. Perhaps he could have check called that river instead of bet.
Brendan, I return with news of the Goliath, but firstly I'm going to jump into some of the Facebook chat. Some novel suggestions from Mr. Bert Perry, who says this is too deep, they should just flip. I don't think by any stretch that Bert's being serious there.
I'm going to jump in here, Tom, because I've addressed some of these already, and we've given a huge shout out to Bert for his results here in Cambodia.
That's very kind of you. You're always ahead of me like I would expect. And yes, $105,000 Australian added to Bert's repertoire. He's got flip money for days.
With US, Tom.
105 US, my apologies.
I believe so.
Piles is what he's won. Piles. A trophy, a title. The love and hearts of all of us here in Australia for representing Team
Daniel
Oz so
checks.
well.
Sean checks.
It's US dollars and juicy right now, Tom.
It's a good time. Delightful lady over on Twitch chat just asking for player banter. We have put that back on while I stepped out of the booth and left you with Brendan talking through. He's giving you his commentary, but you can hear the players through there now as well. So in our Drakakis, currently 15 players remaining, 74 entries total, a prize pool of $95,000. So with this depth of play in the Goliath FT, I would expect by about the time this tournament wraps up, we'll be moving straight over into the final table of the Drakakis Championships. It's going to be an afternoon of packed poker here at LCA Poker. If you haven't already, do make sure you pop on and visit a couple of links. And the first of those would be us, of course, at LCA Poker. You'll find us on Facebook, LCA Poker, and as well as twitch.tv/LCA Poker.
Daniel checks.
The APT at APT Live Reporting. Make sure you have a look at their schedule or AustralianPokerTour.com.au, and the privilege we have of being joined by Mr. Brendan Ruby with the Video Poker Diaries and mindfulness, mindset and coaching opportunities available. Brendan, the best place for people at home to find you is?
Yeah, look, it's 2023, Tom, so a simple Google search will find where I'm at, or you can go to simply just search me on Facebook, Instagram, go to YouTube and research my name, search my name, Brendan Ruby. Check out some of the recent content I've been putting together, which is my little baby at the moment, called the Poker Diaries. So a nice little docu-series of everything I do leading into games, all my thought processes, and there is many, many more to come. So definitely get to my YouTube, my Facebook, my Instagram. I also have the Australian Poker Mindset is my other little baby, which is a podcast where I interview players. And guys, let's get some encouragement because I'm trying to get our 3K winner, Bert, on the podcast. And he's been very busy enjoying his win. But if you want to hear Bert on the Australian Poker Mindset, give us some love now so we can influence him and get him on there.
A huge fan favourite. We had the Bert Big One Invitational only a few series ago at the APT Eaton's Hill. An invitational 1K prize point, which was just put on by the players, and Bert was the namesake and poster child for that event as well. But we'd love to hear his thought process through some of that mindset, his preparation.
Sean checks.
A student of the game and all-round good guy.
Interesting flop here, Tom. So we've got Velk's gone with the 2.5x raise on the button, which has been pretty standard for him at the moment. John's just defended with the flat, and it's a flop that both players have a bit of a piece of.
Sean checks.
On check on the flop. So Velk's obviously going here with a all-parent strategy. Most players would probably bet out on this flop with the top pair, the straight draw, to protect from all the clubs. Velk's happy to go with the check here, control the size of the pot, get some more information. Now that the turn's brought a king and Sean's shown double weakness by checking again, Velk's happy to bet small and he's going to take that one down. Climbing back into this one, Tom. Started
4.4 plays 6.2.
So that started out 7.3 million to 3.3 million. Helps added about 20-25% to the stack so far. Way to go though, Tom.
True action here.
Right, Sean. Sean raise 150.
Back into the action. Daniel now on the big blind, ace 4.
Daniel.
Sean opens the button to 150,000.
He's got a decision here to make. This is a sort of hand where we can certainly just call. This stack depth, sometimes we might want to put in a 3-bet here. It's for offsuit. Doesn't play very well out of position unless you hit that ace. Sometimes we want to turn it into more of a semi-bluff heads up. Put tons of pressure on hands like exactly what Sean has.
Sean bets 120.
Elk's gone with the passive route. He's just going to call. Following suit with what he's been doing in other situations with controlling pot sizes.
Daniel
and in this situation it's not going to work for him because that flop does not connect with Velk, and even though Sean missed everything there, his gut shot and jack high, his position, his aggression and his passion for winning that hand is going to prevail. Put tons of pressure on the ace high, so well done there, Sean.
Daniel.
Alright, Velk's got an ace-5 offset here on the button. I suspect he's going to go with the 2.5x raise again. 150, and Sean's got a defendable hand here. Pretty well right in the middle of your range here. Queen 9 offsuit's right there, so Queen 8 we've got to defend.
Wow, an action flop. Both players flop a pair. Daniel with the best of it.
This is the most ideal spot Velk can find himself in. Got top pair. Not only that, is the opponent has second pair. On check on the flop, and I would have preferred to have seen a bet there by Velk, simply to get some value from worse hands, some draws. Gone with the check, and he's just going to keep trying to confuse Sean with checking back value hands, checking back bluffs, checking back missed hands. Sorry, not checking back bluffs, checking back missed hands to balance that range.
180.
And now he's going to bet the turn. Sean's checked it twice. Second pair, which is not a bad idea on this board. Very wet board. There's 2 flush draws, straight draws. So Sean has a good bluff catcher here with the Queen 8. And oh boy, that is a nice river there for Sean. Now he's got a decision to make here, because he's thinking, well, if I check, will Daniel check behind me and I miss potentially getting any value here from my hand? Or should I bet now and make it look like I've missed a draw? Maybe I bet now and make it look like I've missed my 10-jack straight draw, king-jack, king-10, hearts, spades.
Sean bets.
Maybe Velk can call off
700,000
with a 9.
Look at this sizing.
Coming up a little bit later
That's
on
a
tonight,
great
we've also
fun
got
size,
a main event
700,000.
flight, $600 main event flight, as well as the last flight of the mini-main.
So what message do you think this is sending, Tom? Pot size bet?
Pot size bet represents a missed hand. I have failed to connect. I'm going to try and push you out of the way.
Daniel folds.
Wow, Velk makes the fold.
But we do say when sometimes things smell a bit suspicious.
Gotta say though, that's a quick fold. He didn't even use his 30 seconds there. He used only 10 seconds of that. And that's a spot there where a lot of draws missed, so
I thought you said something else.
would have preferred to see a bit more consideration there by Velk, even though, of course, we know he made the right decision. think just an extra 10 or 15 seconds is warranted there because he's got a really good bluff catcher. Elk check back the flop, bet small on the turn, so he's already shown some weakness. So in hindsight, it's a good laydown, but it's always good to be thinking in these situations of all the scenarios, all the information.
Conflicting hands here again, both players with suited kings. Sean king 10, Daniel with king 2.
Pause.
Your standard raise here and a call, both players.
And this time Daniel is going to outflop Sean. However, backdoor diamonds brings those equities very close. 52
Front door
small
diamonds.
favourite. Ah yes, of course.
Sean bets
Flush
150.
draw. The 10 is an out too, so the equities are lying pretty well. On's going to bet out with his flush draw, his overcards. On's feeling pretty good about
Daniel
this one.
calls 150.
Got a lot of outs. The aggressor is in position. Velk.
Daniel checks.
Oh boy. Tom, this could be all over with this turn card. This could be all over if, of course, Sean improves on the river, but you can bet your bottom dollar Sean is going to bet this turn card. Velk is going to raise it, if not just shove this hand.
Sean
This
bets
two pair.
425.
And there's no way Sean's getting away from this. He's going to have to call off. So let's see what size he goes for. 425,000. Big bet at this stage. This is one of the biggest pots we've seen so far, and it looks like Velk has about 2.5 million behind there. Any raise here is going to commit his stack, and I'm sure Velk does not want to call here and risk losing value.
He is, however, going to make just a flat.
Guess he's thinking that potentially his opponent has a lot of bluffs in the range, so checking and calling can induce some bluffs on the river. This river card is not good news for Velk. Sean is loving life. He's got the second nuts, and he's just thinking, how much value can I get from my hand here?
Alrighty, PLO players, come take your seats.
1.5 in there.
Your tournament is
Velk
due to
has about
start.
2 million, I think, behind.
Oh, Bass.
Sean bets
How much
1
can
million.
I get from Velk here?
The king of PLO in Sydney is here, Bassam Habib.
Answer is 1 million exactly.
Straight up 1 million. Velk has 3.1 sitting behind. Yeah.
So it's a little deeper than I thought. Velk's
He
going
is
to
going to make a quick call.
Daniel calls. Sean shows
Brutal
back.
exchange.
Yeah, I think that's a cooler heads up, as we say, Tom. I don't think there's much either player could really be doing there in that situation.
I think they're lucky to avoid not going broke on the turn.
Well, I guess Velk decided to raise his hand on the turn, and this tournament would be over right now because of the river card. Given that he went with the check call route, believing that Sean could have a lot of bluffs in his range, in which case Velk decided to check the river. He basically made a very quick call on the river to that 1 million bet, expecting to see a lot of bluffs, ace highs, maybe 10 high, jack high type hands. But unfortunately for
All
Velk,
players
he's
in
run
League
into a
Sports,
situation
Massage,
where
Big
his stack
Bounty.
is severely damaged.
Finishing your current hand, please, and going on
Falls.
10-minute break. That's all players in Big Bounty. 10-minute break. This is also
8.5 million plays 2.1 million. The blind's still 30,000, 60,000, 60,000. We know a full double from Daniel basically levels out those stacks.
this is also the last 10 minutes of Lake Ridge.
It's not over.
Tournament.
It's hard not to feel like it's over.
You have another
When you're
replay if
facing
you wish to. You have less
4
than
to 1.
starts up. You can't surrender your set. You need to make it known to the TD.
The depth of this tournament it's not over.
So less than 10 minutes late, red remaining in the big bounty.
Absolutely right, Tom. And I think the fact that the blinds are still 30k, 60k is going to put Velk at ease a little bit because he still has over 30 big blinds. Quarter one, it's a bit of a David and Goliath situation.
Sean?
And just over
Even if the blinds were much
level
higher,
of late registration remaining in the game with mixed
still a lot of poker to be
Sean,
played here.
460.
Just because you lose a hand like that, a crucial one.
Meanwhile, if anyone wishes to run with the feature table, we are heads up down here.
Thanks, Sean.
We are also
Win a big
now
pot
down
like
to
that,
15 players
belief
in the
and
players'
the rush and the feeling of getting that one step closer to winning this tournament is starting to become real. Have to be careful because anything can happen here.
Daniel checks.
Limp pot here. Fox flopped it. And 10, Jack, Queen, King. He's got the straight. No one's interested with a straight draw. Absolutely no clue that he's drawing into a chop here.
Sean bets 75.
Given that this was a limp pot, Velk doesn't really have a whole lot of super strong hands in his range here. Because Velk would have raised pre-flop with all the Broadway type
Daniel,
hands, you would
475.
imagine. So this is a really nice smooth call by Velk to allow Sean to bluff into a board like this.
Daniel checks.
And look at that turn card.
It's not necessarily the worst turn card for Velk because now he's got himself a free roll here with the diamonds out there.
Sean checks.
And these guys are just going to chop this pot up. Just a matter of who's going to bet and who's going to raise or call or potentially just call or bet call or something. But we're going to see a chop here. I doubt either player are going to fold this one.
Ten seconds.
Plenty of fans in Twitch and Facebook chat cheering for each of these players. Gerald says,
210.
Sean, one step closer. Go,
Sean
go,
calls.
go. Let us know in Facebook or Twitch who you're cheering
Straight.
for.
Gerald earns the Supporters Award. Do you have one of those awards, Tom? Rail Award?
I feel like we need one. He's definitely been the best cheerleader for today. Gerald, so thank you for joining us and you're very enthusiastic cheering for Sean as he's navigated his way all the way up to 8.6 million chips. Now, Daniel is by no means going home just yet, but you are correct. That elimination of Adam Carmen is one step closer. Can he make that final step and become our next Goliath champion, or will Daniel Velk flip this chip stack around and close out the event?
The way that Daniel's playing this chip stack, his small ball strategy, he's not really bloating pots. He actually has a lot more play in this stack than other players might have, because other players might bloating pots or c-betting too frequently or bluffing too much. What we've seen from him so far is that he's happy to play a lot of small ball strategy, he's happy to check a lot, he's happy to pot small. But even though he's got a 4-1 underdog here in his stack, gonna see a lot more play still. Here with another limp on the button, as opposed to potentially a raise on the button, which is somewhat more standard in heads-up play.
Sean raise 180.
Sean's not going to be limping here. Ace King on. We'll raise and just take in the favourite thing, and certainly my favourite thing, which is that yummy, yummy, yummy uncontested money. And it's important to note that we do leave the ante on at heads up at the Australian Poker Tour. It really does incentivise that taking in those extra pots. Heads up, it's always important to be taking in pots and hopefully uncontested, but with that extra big blind ante in there as well, it's just that extra bit more important.
I'm intrigued. What is the origin of the yummy yummy chips in my... What's the saying?
It's mine. Yummy, yummy, yummy uncontested money. It's my favourite thing in the world. Showdowns are overrated. We want
Shot,
showtime,
460.
not showdowns. It's hard to win a pot at showdown, right?
I agree. I want to know the origin. Where did it come from? Where did the saying come from? I know it's yours. You've coined it. It's yours.
It's my just love of Dr. Seuss and my general enthusiasm for poetry and commentary, perhaps. Fell out one time and I enjoyed it thoroughly, and we're going to get it. We're going to get everyone on board.
180.
Love it. I love it. And we've got some action here. This is an interesting one because this is one of the first times we've actually seen Sean limp the button. And he's actually limped here with an ace. It's a baby ace. Now Sean's thinking, is Daniel going to punish my limp here because I look weak?
Sean, re-raise. 500.
Velk is a strong hand, as we know, but Sean doesn't know that. You can see here, Sean's put in the re-raise, so this is very tricky. He's limped in first with an offsuit ace. Now putting pressure on Velk, who's tried to raise his limp. So this is interesting. This is where we get to that next level. The players might be asking, does this person have the hand they're representing or not?
Sean folds.
Velk doesn't mind because he's got the hand.
Yep.
Sean's in a tough spot now, though.
Big uncontested exchange. Daniel comes back up to 2.5 million.
It's the quick fold. Look, I don't hate that. I actually quite like Sean's play there.
I do too.
At the time, I think Velk might actually have hands like King High or Queen High or Baby Ace himself. So Sean's raised there, puts tons of pressure on that.
Super strong.
And we know that Velk is capable of doing that without hands. We can't be just letting him get away with it all the time. We've got to keep that pressure applied.
The only unfall, I would say, be the dynamics that we've seen so far. We've seen Velk play a small ball strategy. So, the fact that Velk has chosen to raise out of position. What I've seen so far, forget about the hands, it's more about the less likely to put a player like Velk on weak hands by raising the position because I'm happy playing small ball. That would be my only criticism of that limp re-raise with the ace-4. Mostly, it's a really strong play there. So, first to you, Sean. Unfortunately for you, the timing was not quite there. And this is going to be a big one, Tom.
Wow.
Sean, raise.
The ace-king 3 times in a row. They've each had a turn of it. Daniel gets a second time. This time Sean has pocket 9s. A big hand brewing.
It's going to be all then.
150 from Daniel.
Right,
3 bets to 460.
for the big bounty.
And the ace-king suited here is going to go all the way in the middle. Looks like he has one time bank chip left. I don't think he's going to need to use. I'll just tick this one down. There it is, all in.
As soon as the tournament restarts.
Sean realises he's
Yes.
going to need a count now.
He knows he has to call here, and he knows that this could be it. So he's just taking his time and appreciating the moment. But there's no way
at 6 p.m.
in hell that he is
So
folding
the
here.
mini-main flight D at 6
It's an
p.m.
incredibly strong hand in a heads-up situation.
Yep. Quick look at the blinds, quick look at the chips in play. He knows what he's holding. Just got to confirm how much Daniel has. And we're going to have to see Sean flick in the call.
Also buying himself a little bit of time maybe with the shot clock. As you can see, the shot clock still is
Alright, players and dealers for the big bounty. Your blinds are restarting at 800, 1600 with the 1600 big blind ending 8, 16, 16. Dealer may deal up.
There we go. Sean's put the clock on himself. It's
The
never like
registration
that.
is now closed for the
There it goes.
massage
All in
Call.
call.
big bounty. So we got an all-in call.
Tournament
on the
life at
feature
risk
table.
now. This could be the deciding hand. 9's the ace-king.
We've got a classic flip. We've got Daniel all in and at risk with ace king of hearts.
The overcards, the
Against
classic
Sean's
race of
pocket
hole.
9s. We've got a flop of 7, 7, 9.
And that's how we run a pretty quick race. We just flop.
Rivers 5, Sean Uy is your
That will do
new Goliath champion, ladies and gentlemen.
What a flop for nines. No
Daniel
sweat at all.
Velkovic gets a very
Genuinely
respectable
like
second
finish by both
with
players. Not only shaking each other's hands,
$14,000.
but the dealers too.
Sean
Love to see
Oy,
that.
66,000 plus.
What a great performance by all these players. Congratulations, Sean. Well done, Velk.
Trophy.
Well done, Adam. What a great final table.
Fantastic performance from all 5 players who returned today for us. A privilege again to be in the booth and talking to all the viewers at home. We thank you for joining us. We're of course live twitch.tv, LCA Poker, Australian Poker Tour live reporting on Facebook, and also on YouTube. You'll find the Australian Poker Tour YouTube. This broadcast and footage there left for you. Brendan Ruby, we thank you again for joining us. For those who haven't yet seen your video poker diaries, you'll find Brendan Ruby on YouTube if you're looking for coaching, mindset, fundamentals, or changing your performance on the felt. Jump onto a computer, type in Google.
You're going to need an extra.
The links have been posted in this Twitch
extra
chat.
thing of baggage. You're going to pay an extra $40 for baggage.
And we look forward to seeing
You've also
results from you at
part of your first place prize.
alternative
Also win entry
ABT
into the vault
as you make your way there
okay,
tomorrow.
that's the 150k first prize.
Thank you, Tom. I really appreciate it. It's been an absolute pleasure to share this experience again with you. As always, keep up the good work down there in Campbelltown and make sure you take care of yourself, Tom. I'm worried about your sleep. I'm worried about your health and your peak performance, okay? Love you. We love your hard work, but you got to take care of yourself. But thank you, Tom. Thank you for having me. Good luck, everyone. Enjoy your poker. Enjoy your life.
Still got it.
Thanks. Don't go too far, viewers. We head over to the Drakakis for the final table action in a few moments' time.